Chapter 589. Oh, the low roar of a Catasaurus could be heard from within the tent. It placed its huge head on Lin Muyu's shoulder and gently rubbed it. Its big eyes stared at the horse meat in Lin Muyu's hand, blinking, full of expectation and desire. Every time Lin Muyu lifted the meat, it became even more expectant. The scales on its head stood up like a mimosa, and its ears drooped down, full of obedience. However, when Lin Muyu placed the meat in its mouth, the scales on the Acatosaurus's face was filled with disappointment. Wei Chou said, "In just one afternoon, the Steel Blade Army lost more than 30,000 men, and many horses were also injured. Therefore, everyone's dinner has been changed to horse meat. My lord, eat as much as you want. If that Acatosaurus wants to eat, you can also feed it some. There's plenty of horse meat." Lin Muyu nodded and said to the Acatosaurus, "Come, open your mouth." The Acatosaurus bowed and blinked its eyes. It quickly raised its neck and opened its mouth. Lin Muyu lifted the entire silver cauldron and poured at least 3 caddies of horse meat into the Acatosaurus's mouth. The Acatosaurus swallowed it all without blinking. It then looked at its master with its big watery eyes and licked its lips. Its eyes were filled with hope as always. Lin Muyu was speechless. She rubbed the Acatosaurus's head and said, "Don't be too greedy. Even if there's plenty of horse meat, we still need to prepare for a long battle. Save as much as you can. Xiaolong, go back to the alternate space and find your own food." The Acatosaurus's mood was gloomy. This was the only thing Lin Muyu could feel. Ever since the Acatosaurus entered the alternate space, the soul contract between Lin Muyu and Acatosaurus seemed to have weakened. The only thing she could feel was the Acatosaurus's emotions. As for what Acatosaurus wanted to express, Lin Muyu had no idea. On the side, Wei Chou, Citizen, Citixue, and Fengxi were also eating in silence. After a while, Citizen raised his head and said, "My lord, do you think we have a chance of winning?" "Yes, although it's not a big chance." Lin Muyu comforted the troops. In fact, he knew that if this situation continued, the chance of winning would be less than 20%. Citixue said, "Today, Xiang Yu's army, Steel Blade Army, Su Long's army, and the God Wei camp have a total of 90,000 soldiers killed and 110,000 wounded. On the other hand, the demons only lost less than 30,000 armor demons. At this rate, all 500,000 of us will die here, and the demons will still have 200,000 armor demons. Moreover, the high-level demon army hasn't even been mobilized yet." Lin Muyu frowned and said, "I know that, but I don't know what Xiao Yin is thinking. I asked her at dusk, but she didn't tell me. I feel that Xiao Yin has her own plan, but she didn't tell me." Wei Chou was stunned. "With the relationship between you and Her Highness, she didn't tell you?" "Yes." Lin Muyu sighed. "It doesn't matter. Since the Longdan army camp is responsible for bringing up the rear, let's be at ease and leave the rest to others." "Oh yes, is there any news from Feng Jixing and Su Yu?" "Not yet. From Mo Song Pass to Lin Valley is 1,000 miles away. It will take a day and a night to send a letter. Even if they received the letter, it was a day ago. It's useless. I hope Brother Feng is safe." "Commander, don't worry. General Feng is well-versed in military strategy. Even if Long Qianlin and Ding Shi make any strange moves, General Feng can deal with it. Moreover, Her Highness Tang Lan and Commander Su Yu are here. It's even more foolproof." "Yes." Lin Muyu nodded. She knew very well what kind of people Long Qianlin and Ding Shi were. These two people were too shrewd. Feng Jixing might be able to mediate if it was a one-on-one battle, but it would be a little difficult if it was 1 against 2. The moonlight of Lin Valley shone brightly on Mo Song Pass. Feng Jixing stood on top of the fortress in a white robe, looking at the soldiers cleaning up the battlefield under the moonlight. His face was full of solemnity. In the battle during the day, both sides suffered losses. Long Qianlin and Ding Shi had gathered nearly 400,000 men in Lingnan, but there were only 80,000 soldiers attacking the 3 passes. There were only 2 possibilities. The first possibility was that Long Qianlin thought that 80,000 was enough to break through the pass. The other possibility was that they had other plans. An imperial army captaincy walked up the cold stone steps and cupped his fists. Commander, a total of 3,000 corpses of Iha country soldiers have been cleaned up outside the city. How many casualties did we suffer? Less than 700 people? At the side, Tang Shi couldn't help but laugh. General Feng is indeed a famous general of the present age. Under the attack of Long Lin and Ding Shi, he was able to kill and injure 3,000 of their soldiers, but his own casualties were less than 1,000. Mo Song Pass is sturdy, and defending a city has always been like this. There was no joy on Feng Jixing's face as he said, "Men, send a letter to Zhang Wei and Xiahou Sang, and order them to erect my commander flag with the word, Feng, on the city walls, so that Long Lin and Ding Shi would not be able to tell which city I am in." "Yes, this subordinate will do it right away." Su Yu combed her fluttering hair. She was still so graceful in the imperial female military uniform. Looking at Feng Jixing, who was in a daze, she couldn't help but laugh. "General Feng, what are you thinking about?" Feng Jixing looked at the thin layer of snow on the mountain range and said, "I am thinking, how long will it take for the snow to melt? Spring comes very quickly in Lingnan, and the temperature is warmer than in Lingbei. So, as long as it doesn't snow, the snow will definitely melt in 3 days. Maybe 1 day is enough, as long as the sun tomorrow is as good as today." Su Yu squinted her beautiful eyes and asked with a smile, "Why, does the snow have anything to do with our battle?" "Commander Su Yu, you haven't experienced the Lanyan City Rebellion, so you don't know the origin of that war. But, as a general of the Empire, Commander Su, you should remember how the Iha rebels crossed the Qinling Mountains and conquered Songnan Province, Earthstar Province, and Lingdong Province in one fell swoop, right? Green cowhide crossing the mountains?" Su Yu's body trembled. "Do you mean Long Lin and Ding Shi will also use the green cowhide crossing the mountains?" "Why wouldn't they?" Feng Jixing's eyes were indifferent. "Lin Yu, who came up with the green cowhide crossing the mountains, is Long Lin's cousin, so it's not surprising that Long Lin will use the same trick again. Spring is warm, flowers are blooming, and all living things are coming back to life. Green has already begun to appear on the Qinling Mountains in the Swift White Province. I have asked around. There are at least 20 places in the Qinling Mountains that can be crossed. Although the 3 passes are dangerous, if Long Lin and Ding Shi order hundreds of thousands of Iha soldiers to cross the mountains at night, they will surround the 3 passes and cut off our food supply and water supply." Su Yu's expression was anxious, and she sucked in a breath of cold air. So scary, what should we do now?" Feng Jixing smiled. "Commander Su Yu, don't panic. Both Duke Lan and I have already thought of this, so we have sent out tens of thousands of soldiers a day ago. We have sent 2,000 soldiers to every pass that can be crossed, set up traps, set up arrow boxes, and so on. As long as Long Lin and Ding Shi want to cross the mountains, no matter how many come, they will all die." Su Yu showed a trace of relief. "Fortunately, General Feng is here." Sigh. Feng Jixing sighed and wrung his hands, not saying anything. "Why is General Feng sighing?" "I'm sighing because I can only guard here. If it were you guarding the 3 passes, I'm afraid he would have already sent his troops to Lingnan and taken the initiative to attack." Su Yu couldn't help but laugh. "This is also a good thing for the Empire. Commander Yu is good at attacking, and General Feng is good at defending. Both of them are indispensable. I think this is also the reason why Her Highness Yin sent Commander Yu to guard the 3 passes." Feng Jixing smiled awkwardly and continued to be silent. Late at night, on the rugged and winding mountain road of Qinling Mountains, a group of Iha soldiers dressed in black with swords and sabers in their hands walked cautiously. On one side of them was a bottomless abyss, and if they were slightly careless, they would fall and be smashed to pieces. However, the look in their eyes was resolute. Everyone knew that Ding Shi and Long Lin had ordered that the first person to cross the Qinling Mountains would be promoted to a chiliarch, with a reward of 1 million gold. However, it seemed that they didn't have the fortune to enjoy this reward of 1 million gold. Just after the first Iha soldier appeared, there was a sudden whoosh in the distance, and a sharp arrow directly pierced his throat. Immediately, his dead body rolled down the mountain cliff. The Iha soldiers behind were in a commotion. A centurion immediately pulled out his sword and shouted, "There's an ambush. Charge! Rush out of the ambush. They won't have too many troops." Hundreds and thousands of Iha soldiers madly rushed to the top of the mountain, but what greeted them was a row of pitch-black arrow boxes. With the sound of bowstrings being pulled, densely packed arrows flew out, and in the blink of an eye, hundreds of Iha soldiers in front of them were turned into corpses. Oh no! They came prepared. Achillearch's face was full of shock, and he said, "Retreat! Retreat! We can't attack anymore. Send a letter to the marshal." Pa! A messenger bird flew down the mountain at high speed. In the Iha army's main camp, Dingxi opened the letter, and after glancing through it, his face was a little pale, and he said, "What a good Feng. He actually predicted that we would cross the mountains to attack and actually set up an ambush." Wang Lin held the hilt of his sword, and said, "Immediately send the order to all the divisions to stop moving and withdraw from the Qinling Mountains." "Yes." However, a captaincy said with hope, "General Long, what if the Empire only set up an ambush? The rest should be able to make a great contribution. General Long, please reconsider." Wang Lin smiled slightly. "You don't understand Feng Jixing at all. His meticulousness is far beyond your imagination. Immediately send the order to withdraw all the troops that are carrying out the mission. Don't let them die in vain on the Qinling Mountains. Moreover, so what if 1 or 2 troops go over? The Empire has already heard of the movement, and the nearly 200,000 troops are not just for show." "Yes, General Long." Wang Lin sat down and looked at Dingxi. Both of their faces were full of solemnity. How difficult would it be to seize the pass from Feng Jixing's hands? Chapter 590. February 7th. The battle outside Songlin Valley had been in a stalemate for 4 consecutive days. Finally, under the fierce attack of the demon race, the Empire could not hold on any longer. The 4 armies at the front had suffered heavy losses. Tens of thousands of wounded soldiers poured into the casualty barracks every day, but the elixir department could only send out a limited number of military doctors. Many soldiers had already died from their injuries. Late at night, Chu Yao was dressed in the long white dress of the elixir department's chief deacon. Her face was covered in sweat as she bandaged the broken leg of a wounded soldier. She had already lost count of the number of wounded soldiers she had treated today. A chief deacon of the elixir department, who was about 40 years old, said respectfully, "Chief Deacon Chu Yao, Commander Yu of the Dragon's Courage Legion has sent people to escort you out of the casualty barracks." "But why?" Chu Yao was surprised. The chief said, "The front line will most likely be lost. Once the demon race breaks through the Iron Blade Army's camp, they will march straight into the plains outside Songlin Valley. By then, we won't be able to leave even if we wanted to." "But..." Chu Yao bit her red lips and looked at the countless wounded soldiers lying on the ground in the casualty barracks. She could not help but ask, "What about these wounded soldiers?" A man lifted the white curtain and walked in. It was Lin Muyu's personal bodyguard, Bai Yin. He cupped his fists and said, "Chief Deacon Chu Yao, these wounded soldiers will be evacuated soon. You are the chief deacon of the elixir department and the commander's sister, so please bring everyone from the elixir department and follow me. There will be more wounded soldiers waiting for your treatment. Please do not make things difficult for me. Let's go." Chu Yao did not insist. She took off her blood-stained gloves and said, "Yes, immediately gather everyone from the elixir department and retreat with the Longdan army camp." Not long after, under the starry sky, a group of white-robed members of the spiritual medicine department boarded the carriages, while Bai Yin commanded several hundred cavalrymen from the Longdan army camp to stand guard at the side. He shouted, "Depart!" When the fleet left the casualty camp at a high speed, the moonlight fell all the way to the edge of the canyon. Over there, the battle roars were reverberating over 5 miles outside the canyon. The armored demons were attacking the human positions crazily. Even though many armored demons had lost their arms and legs, they were still fighting like wild beasts with resentful looks. Most of the Imperial soldiers were scared out of their wits by the armored demons' offensive. Many of them could not resist at all and were brutally killed. Their blood flowed all over the ground. Soon, the armor demon legion flooded over like a tide. What was worse was that the Wing Clan legion's shrill screams constantly came from the sky. Taking advantage of the darkness, these Wing Clan legion shot down countless arrows. The Imperial soldiers could only be beaten without being able to fight back. On the front line, Luo Exen carried her long spear and thrust it back and forth amidst the group of armored demons. Her purple dragon martial spirit's radiance soared to the sky, looking incomparably mighty. However, the people around her decreased as she fought, and in the blink of an eye, there were only a few left. Young General Luo Exen. On a hill, many soldiers waved the imperial war flag. Under the flag, the Marquis of Pingnan, Xiangyu, sat on a tall horse and shouted, "Young General Luo Exen, retreat. We can't fight anymore. Otherwise, tens of thousands of us will die here." What? Luo Exen's eyes widened. Once we retreat, the God Might Battalion and Su Long's troops on the left and right sides will be ambushed and killed. The demons will break through the middle of the army and form an encirclement. They will be blocked on both sides of the valley and killed one by one. They will not be able to escape. Xiang Yu immediately held up a token and said, "Young General Luo Exen, this is the token given to me by Her Highness, the Empress. Please follow my orders and retreat with the Steel Blade Legion." Luo Exen looked behind him. There were at least 20,000 soldiers in the Steel Blade Army. Although they were fighting fiercely, if they could hold on for 2 to 4 hours and let the Shenwei Battalion and Su Long Battalion retreat first, they might still be able to save Su Long Battalion and the Shenwei Battalion. However, Xiang Yu had given the order and Luo Exen could do nothing about it. Under Su Muyun's constant guidance, Luo Exen naturally knew what a soldier should do. With a face full of unwillingness, Luo Exen raised his spear and shouted, "Steel Blade Legion, retreat with Xiang Yu's army. The 3rd Battalion, stay behind and cover the retreat. The 1st Battalion, follow me and cover the retreat of the God Might Battalion on the right. The 2nd Battalion, follow Deputy Commander Su Wan and cover the retreat of Su Long's troops on the left. Go now, don't hesitate." All of a sudden, the main force of the Steel Blade Army retreated. The 3 battalions of about 6,000 soldiers split into 3 groups, with one group bringing up the rear and 2 groups providing cover for the other 2 battlefields. However, the winged army in the air was extremely sharp. Arrows rained down from the sky, killing the cavalry on the ground. Luo Exen looked up, his eyes bloodshot. "Bastards!" Xiang Yu clenched his fists and shouted, "Luo Exen, this bastard, how dare he act so arbitrarily? Men, retreat and leave the battlefield to the demons. Send a message to the Central Army and tell Her Highness that the front line has been routed. We can't hold them off anymore." What? Routed? In the central tent, Qin Yin slammed the table and stood up. She looked at the messenger in shock. Su Muyun and Zheng Yifan stood up at the same time and said, "Oh no." Zheng Yifan looked at the messenger and asked sternly, "Xiang Yu gave the order to retreat?" "Yes, Shenhou." "This bastard." Zheng Yifan's eyes flashed fiercely. The Central Army retreated without warning. This means that the flanks will be surrounded and annihilated by the demons. Xiang Yu has been leading the army for a long time. How could he make such a mistake? He's putting the Shenwei Battalion in a position of no return. Men, bring my guards to reinforce the Shenwei Battalion. Bring back as many as you can. Su Muyun quickly grabbed Zheng Yifan's wrist and said, "Shenhou." Zheng Yifan looked back at him and said, "Gong Yun. The Shenwei Battalion is my life's blood. How can I let them die in vain in this Zonglin Valley?" Su Muyun's cloudy eyes were filled with helplessness. "Shenhou, the number of old officials in the empire is decreasing day by day. Du Hai, Lei Hong and the others have already left us. If Shenhou leaves, I'm afraid it'll be difficult for you to return. Shenhou, please take care of yourself. In the future, you still need to assist Her Highness to unify the empire. Let me go." Zheng Yifan was stunned. At this time, the messenger reported respectfully, "Your Highness, Marquis, Young General Luo Xen has already led the Steel Blade Army's main force to cover the retreat of the Shunwei Battalion and Su Long's army. Xen Air. Su Muyun's arm was slightly trembling. He said, "Men, lead my personal guards and advance 5 miles to support the young general." At this time, Lin Muyu stood up and looked at the messenger with a pair of clear eyes. She said, "Stop." "Commander Yu, what's the matter?" The messenger's heart was pounding. Lin Muyu asked, "Tell me honestly, is the front line really at a point where they can't hold on any longer?" The messenger was perturbed and said, "Reporting to Commander Yu, the demon race's attack today is very fierce. At least 200,000 armored demons have attacked our front line. Our brothers at the front line have almost used up all their arrows and the heavenly tomes have been used up. Therefore, Commander Xiang Yu has ordered the entire army to retreat. Answer me directly. Can they hold on any longer?" Yes, but they definitely won't last until tomorrow." "Damn it," Lin Muyu said in a low voice. "What is Xiang Yu doing? Is he giving the Shunwei Battalion and Su Long's army to the demon race? One night is enough for the left and right armies to retreat. Why didn't the front line resist?" The messenger trembled all over and didn't dare to answer. Xing Yifan frowned and said, "It's useless to say anything now. Let's think about what we should do next." Lin Muyu said, "Since Xiang Yu has ordered the retreat, they will definitely collapse. With Qian Feng and Lei Chang's personalities, it's impossible that they won't chase after us. Their wish is to fight us on the plains. The Empire has already lost the first battle." Su Muyun raised his eyebrows and said, "Then what's next?" Almost everyone's gaze fell on Lin Muyu. Everyone knew that the Steel Blade Army, Shunwei Battalion, Xiangyu Battalion, and Su Long's army had already fought against the demon race and lost. Their only hope was the well-preserved Longdan army camp. If the Longdan army camp couldn't turn the tide, then the Empire's 500,000 soldiers would really be eaten by the demon race in the Zhonglin Valley. "Sirs, please command the troops to retreat in an orderly manner." Lin Muyu's voice was a little weak. She said, "I will arrange for the main force of the Longdan army camp to set up a formation to intercept the demon race's pursuers. Don't worry." "All right. Thank you, Commander Yu." Everyone nodded. Qin Yin didn't say a word. Her beautiful eyes were looking toward the southeast. That was the direction of the Sword Pavilion. The Empire's army had suffered a crushing defeat. If Sword Pavilion's Qin Yi still didn't send troops, then the entire continent's future would be out of control. On the north side of the Zhonglin Valley, facing more and more demons, Su Long's army was losing ground. They couldn't tell each other apart in the dark. They could only hear the endless roars of the demons. Su Long rode his beloved warhorse with a long saber in his hand. His face was ashen as he shouted, "Military report, where's the military report?" A centurion shouted, "Commander, Xiang Yu ordered the entire army to retreat." What? Su Long's heart turned cold. He said, "This order didn't reach me at all. Xiang Yu, that bastard, is he trying to make us fall into eternal damnation? Men, immediately pass down my order. Everyone follow me and charge back. Retreat." "It's too late, Commander. Look over there." Su Long looked back. Under the moonlight, countless armored demons were charging out of the valley. They had already formed an encirclement. In an instant, Su Long's heart felt like it had fallen into a glacier. He murmured, it's over, Commander. What do we do now?" "Hurry up and give the order." A captaincy whose arm had been chopped off said with tears of blood. Su Long gritted his teeth. "Let's go. Retreat to the north with me. Grab the warhorses' necks and swim across the river. It's better than dying here." A group of infantrymen put down their shields and armors and rushed into the river with their short swords. They waved their arms and rushed to the other side of the river. They all knew that the armored demons could not swim. As long as they reached the other side of the river, they would be able to save their lives. However, a series of screams could be heard coming from the river. The river water turned blood red. The first 1,000 soldiers that entered the river were all killed. It was the demon army. God damn it, Su Long's body trembled in anger. He shouted, "Brothers, it's time to show our loyalty to the Empire." Kill. A group of Kiliarchs and captains led the remaining troops to regroup and charge at the tide-like armor devils. However, when they looked back, they found that Su Rong's sword had slashed across his neck, and he had lost all signs of life and fallen off his horse. In the early morning of the 8th of February, year 7736 of the Empire calendar, Su Long, the deputy military governor of Yunzhong province and the commander of the army, committed suicide in defeat. Chapter 591. After the sun rose, the pursuit did not stop. The demon race was everywhere, brandishing their weapons as they charged into the battlefield. The four major armies of the Empire had already been smashed to pieces. Countless soldiers were scattered around the Wang Lin Valley, and eventually became the target of the demon race's slaughter. Within a day, the demon race had marched straight into the territory of 10 miles, killing the Empire's army, causing them to lose their will to fight. Tuck, tuck, tuck. At dusk, the demon race finally sent out their elite high-level demon race cavalry. Nearly 10,000 demon race cavalry galloped across the plains like the autumn wind sweeping away the fallen leaves, tearing the lone troops of the Empire into pieces. Cries and screams filled the air. This was not like a war, but more like a massacre. Pooh! The sound of a sword piercing into a chest was very pleasing to the ear. A demon race general, who was wearing a high-ranking military badge on his chest, slowly pulled out the sharp sword from the chest of a young soldier of the Empire. He smiled and said, "Is this extremely weak race really the rulers of the continent for tens of thousands of years?" The demon race soldier beside him smiled and said, "General, they are indeed, but the rulers of the continent for the next tens of thousands of years will be our god race. We are the real masters of the continent. Continue to advance. Let these humans taste the feeling of being slaughtered." Yes. However, this line of about 200 demon race cavalry did not notice the pairs of eyes behind the evergreen shrubs and the arrow boxes that were ready to shoot. Su Jiantao pulled the bowstring of the arrow box, his face full of caution, and said, "Don't be anxious, we will wait a little longer. Listen to my orders, we must kill more than half of them in one round of arrows, otherwise this group of demon race will not be easy to deal with." "Yes, General." A large group of soldiers nodded one after another. Su Jiantao continued, "The high-level demon race is proficient in horsemanship and swordsmanship, so in a moment, they will definitely attack our battle formation. Spearmen in front, archers in the back. All cavalry, get on your horses and finish the battle." Su Jiantao's dark eyes stared at the demon cavalry in the distance. They were getting closer and closer, less than 100 meters away. He knew that this was the strongest range of the arrow box, so he immediately shouted, "Shoot!" Dozens of arrow boxes were launched at the same time, and the arrows flew out like a shuttle. Shwa shwa shwa. The invincible steel arrows could even break through the hard armor of the demons, let alone these soft and tender high-level demons. In the blink of an eye, dozens of high-level devils had been turned into porcupines together with their horses. However, many high-level devils with impressive cultivation had condensed their demonic fighting aura and demonic blood breath as their protective aura. The steel arrows bounced off one after another, unable to cut into their bodies. "Bastard!" The high-ranking demon general roared angrily as he pointed his sword forward and yelled, "Charge! Kill these despicable humans!" It would take a lot of time to refill the arrow boxes after shooting all the arrows. Su Jiantao could not afford to waste this time, so he turned around and mounted his horse with his sword, and shouted, "Charge!" In the evergreen bushes, hundreds of soldiers in the Longdan army camp stood up one after another. The spearmen were in front, and the shield and archers were in the back. Pew pew pew. The spears kept stabbing into the bodies of the warhorses and high-level devils, but there were too many people with impressive cultivation among this group of high-level devils. The demonic blood breath swirled in the night sky, and the long swords danced in the air. Hundreds of soldiers in the Longdan army camp in front of them were killed in the blink of an eye. The combat power of the high-level devils was too terrifying. Prepare the heavenly book. Su Jiantao was on the horse. He suddenly held his sword horizontally in front of his chest and said, "Flame." The 4 generals in front of him held their weapons horizontally. Suddenly, golden divine characters soared into the sky, activating the power of heaven and earth. Moreover, they were the heavenly book of the law of fire. For a moment, a fiery red rain of fire fell from the sky and landed in front of them, swallowing a group of high-level devils. Su Jiantao raised his sword and shouted in a low voice, "Defend where you are. Archers, get ready." The flames continued to rise. The flames of the heavenly book could only last for a few minutes, but it was enough. A group of soldiers in the Longdan army camp widened their eyes and looked at the sea of fire under the night sky. Could it be that there were still devils that had not been killed? At this moment, a curse suddenly came from the flames. A devil general who was bathed in fire rushed over. It was the general of the team of 200 people. The gang energy on his body had been completely burned by the heavenly book of the fire attribute. His skin began to burn black, and there was a faint smell of burning, but his life was still very strong. He roared and rushed out of the sea of fire. Swoosh, 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 arrows flew like shuttles. In the blink of an eye, the high-level devil from the 4-star devil sect was shot into a hedgehog. How could he do anything else? He whimpered and knelt on the ground, dead. Su Jiantao scoffed faintly and said, "Pack up the arrow boxes. Let's go and set up another ambush at the back." Sir. However, just when a group of soldiers was about to pack up the arrow boxes, a chill suddenly spread around them. In the next moment, sharp sword chi erupted from the bushes, and tens of soldiers' bodies were completely cut into pieces. Amidst the frost, a strong figure stepped on the ice and flew toward them. His face was full of anger. "Su Jiantao, let's see where you can go this time." It was Bai Bing. He was one of the most capable generals under Qianfeng's command. He was also the one who assassinated Tang Tian and severely injured Tang Lu, which gave Tang Lan many reasons to rebel. Be careful. Naturally, Su Jiantao knew how powerful Bai Bing was. He hurriedly took out another long sword from his dimensional bag and shouted, "Brothers, send the signal." Among the crowd of Longdan army camp, a soldier took out a bamboo tube that was ground with black beech powder. After he ignited it, purple smoke rose into the sky. The black beech powder ignited when it came into contact with fire. Although its explosive power was not strong enough to be used as gunpowder, it was more than enough to be used as a signal flare. Die! Bai Bing swung his long sword. Before the long sword landed, the sword ray had already landed on the ground. It was the power of Bai Bing's domain. Su Jiantao's body trembled, and the armor he wore trembled violently. A pale blue light lingered around him. It was the effect of the engravings on the armor, and it was resisting Bai Bing's domain. Su Jiantao was fine, but the bodies of more than 10 soldiers behind him were crushed by the sword chi and domain. Clang. The moment the 2 swords collided, Su Jiantao fell off his warhorse like a cannonball. Bai Bing's strength was far beyond his expectations. Protect the governor. A group of cavalrymen rushed forward, but Bai Bing only sneered and waved her long sword. Streaks of frosty sword aura slashed out, killing the crowd of Longdan army camp as if there was no one there. Just when Bai Bing split a soldier of the Courage Dragon Battalion into 2 halves, a strong pressure suddenly came from the sky and locked Bai Bing's breath in the blink of an eye. In the sky, a young general wearing a general's robe descended from the sky, holding a shining longsword and surrounded by fierce fighting flames. Whether it was the attire or the look in his eyes, it was enough to make him look like him, but his momentum was a notch higher. Buzz. Astral power flowed into the star's sword, and Lin Muyu launched a strike. The first appearance of the stars. Bai Bing did not dare to be careless when he felt the arrival of a strong enemy. He roared and raised his long sword. Streaks of frost condensed around the blade. The ice shattered, and Lin Muyu pressed on Bai Bing's blade. Without waiting for him to react, she added a second force to the star's sword. Chaos of the common people. The common people's celestial phenomenon danced on the blade. Bai Bing did not expect Lin Muyu to recover so quickly. An ordinary Sacred Realm elite would need at least 2 to 3 seconds to recover after using more than 50% of their strength. Otherwise, the energy in their sea of energy would not be able to fill up quickly. However, Lin Muyu actually charged up another strike in less than a second. Bai Bing's ferocious nature made him unwilling to be humiliated. The layer of ice on the blade became thicker. The chaos of the common people burst out a shock wave on the two swords, forcing Su Jiantao and the others to retreat. At the same time, Bai Bing's feet sank deep into the soil and slid back 3 meters. Lin Muyu's eyes were filled with killing intent. He had long heard of Bai Bing. Now that he had met him, how could he let him live? Poof! In less than a second, the third energy wave on the star's sword spread out, 3 luminaries calamity. Wah! Lin Muyu's body was in the air, and the third force had already erupted. Bai Bing immediately spat out a mouthful of blood. When had he ever seen such a battle style? Ding! The treasured sword in Bai Bing's hand that looked like the star's sword was instantly broken. The sword's soul wailed as it was torn apart by Lin Muyu's 3 luminaries calamity power. The star's sword also took the opportunity to slash on Bai Bing's shoulder. Fresh blood splattered. Bai Bing's protective chi was indeed very powerful, but his opponent was the stronger Lin Muyu. He couldn't even withstand a single blow. Bai Bing slid back dozens of meters. He really hoped that he could suddenly disappear from this place and escape, but his entire body was already firmly controlled by Lin Muyu's power. There was no chance of survival. Lin Muyu's eyes were filled with murderous light. With a roar, the fourth force erupted. Snowflakes floated around the longsword. Lin Muyu smiled at Bai Bing and said in a very calm voice, "You pretended to be me and used the law of ice to kill people to frame me. Now, I will use the real Bai Bing's cold ice to send you to hell." "Don't!" Bai Bing was so frightened that he actually cried. Tears rolled down from his eyes. But since he was already here, how could it be so easy to leave? Kacha! The sword blade that was filled with a cold aura broke out of Bai Bing's body. At the same time that Bai Bing's body was frozen into ice, Lin Muyu and the sword pierced through Bai Bing's body. When Bai Bing's body landed on the ground, there was a crisp sound and he turned into pieces of corpse fragments. Pa! Icy chi filled the surroundings. Lin Muyu floated to the ground and completed a series of attacks in the air. For the current Lin Muyu, there were no rules in a battle. The rules that could kill the opponent were the best rules. Originally, he was stronger than Bai Bing, but he was definitely not strong to this extent. He needed at least 20 moves to kill this 5-star demon ancestor level expert. However, the sudden attack and the pinnacle of power control allowed him to kill Bai Bing in just 4 moves and 10 seconds. "Commander!" Su Jiantao and the others all knelt down to pay their respects. Lin Muyu raised her hand and said, "Don't pay attention to so many things on the battlefield. Everyone get up and prepare for battle." Su Jiantao nodded and said, "Commander, as soon as Bai Bing died, Qianfeng and Lei Chong will definitely send the news. The main force of the Armor Demon Legion led by Lei Chong is less than 10 li away from here. They should arrive soon." "Just right." Lin Muyu raised the corner of her mouth and said, "I'm waiting for him. By the way, is there any news about Qianfeng?" "No, no one saw where Qianfeng is." "Oh," Lin Muyu softly responded, but she was at a loss. "Qianfeng, what are you doing?" Chapter 592. What? Bai Bing was killed? Under the starry sky, the galloping armor demon army suddenly stopped. Lei Chong held his warhammer and said with fierce light in his eyes, "How could it be?" Bai Bing was one of the most powerful generals under the command of Marshal Qianfeng. He was one of the best fighters even among the high-level Protoss. How could he be killed? Who killed him? It's the commander of the Empire's Valiant Dragon Battalion, Lin Muyu. The winged messenger said carefully, "We only dared to observe the battle from the sky and did not dare to approach them. There were too many of them. I saw Master Bai Bing being killed with my own eyes." "Damn it." Lei Chong smashed his warhammer on the ground heavily. Immediately, a big pit appeared in the ground in front of him. The power of fire slowly rose from the deep pit. Lei Chong gnashed his teeth and said, Lin Muyu, that D***Ned B*** has lost another general of our Protoss. How can we not take revenge? Someone, pass down my order to the 3 armies. I heard that Lin Muyu has already set up a battle formation 5 miles away and is waiting for us. A high-level demon general cupped his fists and said respectfully, Marshal, please calm down. I hope you can think about it carefully. Don't forget what Marshal Qianfeng told you before you left. Don't go beyond 10 miles away from the Zonglin Valley. If we go any further, we will be 10 miles away. Marshal Qianfeng wants us to station our troops here. Station our troops here? Lei Chong sneered. Does Qianfeng know that Lin Muyu killed Bai Bing? Does he know that Lin Muyu has stationed troops to fight against him? He doesn't even know that a general can't obey the orders of the emperor. Don't talk so much nonsense. I have 110,000 armor demons under my command. Do you think I'm afraid of his valiant dragon army? Gather the men and horses immediately. We'll charge over in 2 hours. The rumbling war drums sounded. The armor demons scattered around the valley all pricked up their ears to listen to where the drums were coming from. Then they rushed over like a pack of wolves. In the blink of an eye, a group of tide-like armor demons had already gathered under the moonlight. The armor demons did not have any formation or phalanx. They just charged and killed. However, this kind of charge was simply a disaster for humans. The 200,000 men that Su Muyun, Zhen Yifan, and Tang Lan had trained so meticulously were utterly defeated by the attack of 150,000 armor demons. This was a very good example. 5 miles away, on the road between the valleys, the Longdan army camp was waiting for the enemy in the distance. The bright moon fell on the ground and shone on everyone. A total of 45,000 people formed a battle formation, which was divided into 8 formations: Qian, Kuan, Zhen, Sun, Ken, Li, Zhen, and Dui. This was the 8 formation chart that Lin Muyu found from Lulu's cache data. It was said that it was copied from the inscription of Guduji, a military strategist of the Tang dynasty. When Lin Muyu gave this 8 formation chart to Wei Chou was obsessed with it. That was how the unique 8 formation chart of the Longdan army camp was created. The 8 formations, including the central army, had a total of 9 formations. They were spread out on the vast plains, with 5,000 people in each formation, a total of 45,000 people. It was a majestic sight, while Wei Chou stood on the high platform of the central army. On the hillside in the distance, Qin Yin, Su Myun, Lin Muyu, and Zhen Yifan were watching from afar. 8 formation chart. Zheng Yifan squinted his eyes and smiled. I have never seen such a formation in my entire life. Commander Yu, have you used this 8 formation chart in actual combat? No. Lin Muyu said frankly. Su Muyun smiled. Although I have not used it in actual combat, I feel that this formation is very mysterious from afar. Moreover, with General Wei Chou personally overseeing it, I think it will be a great achievement. I don't dare to say that. Lin Muyu pondered. I just hope that it can stop the demons for 1 day and 1 night. Why 1 day and 1 night? Zheng Yifan asked. Could it be that Commander Yu still has some tricks up her sleeves? No, I just said it casually. 1 day and 1 night. Qin Yin held the hilt of her sword and asked, Has Xiang Yu returned? Luo Exen shook her head. Commander Xiang Yu led nearly 50,000 elite troops of Qihai City and disappeared. Before he left, he said that he would definitely repay the country with his life. After that, we lost contact. That bastard! Su Muyun gritted his teeth. I have never seen such a disregard for military law. If Xiang Yu did not order the entire army to retreat, we would not have ended up like this. Poor Su Long, not a single one of his 100,000 troops returned. How hateful and infuriating. Luo Exen comforted him. Imperial Father, please do not be too sad. Commander Su Long sacrificed his life for the country. As for us, our Iron Blade army still has about 30,000 people. There are also many of our people in the wounded barracks. Our strength is still there. Qin Yin said, How is the arrangement of the wounded barracks? Chu Yao said respectfully, "Your Highness, the wounded barracks have been moved 10 miles to the west. However, the retreat was too hasty. We still have nearly 40,000 wounded soldiers who did not have time to evacuate. Most of them have already fallen into the hands of the demons." Qin Yin's body trembled and her beautiful eyes became misty. "The Empire has let them down." Lin Muyu looked at the front indifferently and did not speak. At this moment, a messenger bird landed on his arm. When he opened it, he saw the handwriting of Su Jiantao. "The Thunder Rush Army is here. They have about 100,000 troops and are 3 miles away." In fact, the billowing smoke and dust in the distance could almost be seen. The sound of killing could be heard in the wind. On the plains, with the help of the moonlight, they could see a black tide surging towards the 8 formation diagram of the Longdan army camp. At least 100,000 armor demons had finally arrived. Everyone almost suffocated. No one had seen the formation of the demons from this angle. This was the first time. Will we be the ones to make history? Qin Yin suddenly muttered to herself. Lin Muyu secretly held her cold little hand and smiled. "Yes, we will. Don't worry." Qin Yin also smiled. At this moment, the only thing that could make Qin Yin feel relieved was Lin Muyu's confident smile. Although Lin Muyu did not have much confidence, because he did not think that the 8 formation diagram could really resist the armor demon army. Looking at the group of guards behind her, Lin Muyu said, "Send the winged cavalry to investigate. I need to know where Qianfeng is." The group of guards retreated. Su Muyun smiled and said, "Commander Yu is so concerned about Qianfeng's movements? If Qianfeng is here, we will definitely lose. If Qianfeng is not here, we will definitely win." Lin Muyu's voice was very calm, but surprisingly full of confidence. With Qianfeng's strategy and vision, he would definitely be able to see through Lin Muyu's real intentions. If Qianfeng was not here, and only Lei Chong was here, this reckless commander of the armor demons would not be able to see through too much. Lin Muyu was full of confidence in this. "They are coming. They are attacking," Luo Xian said eagerly. Her voice revealed some excitement. "Yes, they are attacking." Zheng Yifan's voice was more desperate. The cold wind whistled past the general platform. Wei Chou was standing on the general platform in a white robe. The 2-star military insignia on his shoulder was glowing with a faint golden light. Looking at the armor demon army coming from afar, he gently raised his hand and said, "Drummers, flag bearers, order the tiger wing formation to fight." The drums were beating in unison. The flag bearers waved the war flags rapidly. The formation changed rapidly. Their wings were like sharp claws. Their defense was accompanied by an awe-inspiring attack. "Ruther!" The armor demon army roared and rushed at the heavy shields outside the formation. However, there were layers of people behind the heavy shields. The soldiers of the Longdan army camp were resisting with their bodies. 10 or even 20 people could naturally resist the impact of the armor demons. Sparks splashed on the heavy shields. The armor demons in the first row could not rush in at all. On the contrary, the archers behind the shields were shooting randomly. White drill arrows fell on the armor demons like rain. In the blink of an eye, a lot of armor demons were killed or injured. "Charge!" In the crowd, Lei Chong appeared. He rushed into the crowd with his war hammer and tore the bodies of dozens of soldiers of the Longdan army camp into pieces. However, dozens of people were nothing compared to the battle formation of 5,000 people. The formation quickly rotated to fill the gap. However, arrows and spears kept coming. Although Lei Chong could kill people, he could not break the formation. The armor demons kept rushing at the periphery and quickly penetrated into the formation. It was like water flowing around a stone pillar in a stream. Wei Chou saw it clearly. He raised his arm again and shouted, "Snake coil formation." Dong, dong, dong. The sound of the war drums became rapid. The battle formation changed rapidly. They were connected in pairs like snakes coiling in the wild. In the blink of an eye, the armor demons that entered the formation were devoured. The shields on the periphery quickly changed into a defensive echelon, preventing the armor demons from rushing in. The front formation was full of shield-bearers and spearmen. The 8 formation diagram that Wei Chou trained could be said to have used the Qianquan tactics to fight against the demons. Damn it! Lei Chong bellowed from outside the formation, "Charge! Leap and attack! The winged army, move out and attack the sky above their formation. We must destroy the valiant dragon camp." Countless winged people soared into the sky and started shooting arrows down from the sky. Wei Chou could not help but take a deep breath. After blocking a few arrows with his sword, he raised his arm and shouted, "Bird flight formation, use the heavenly book." The sound of the war drums became more intense, and the battle formation continued to change. At the center of each formation, soldiers holding shields piled up like a human pyramid. When the soldiers at the top were nearly 10 meters tall, they stepped on their shields and leaped into the formation. The weapons in their hands glowed with a faint golden light. In the blink of an eye, more than 100 soldiers leaped into the sky. Heaven and earth energy surged, and more than 100 spiritual books, earthly books, and heavenly books exploded in the sky. For a moment, flames, storms, icicles, and rocks exploded in the sky. It was as if a purgatory had been created in the human world. Boom, boom, boom. The heavenly book was extraordinary. In order to maintain their shooting power, the winged men in the sky were less than 50 meters away from the ground. They were all within the range of the heavenly book. For a moment, screams could be heard. In the blink of an eye, almost 30,000 winged ones had been killed. Charred and frozen corpses of winged ones rained down from the sky. Shilbash. Wei Chou continued to give orders calmly. The soldiers raised their shields above their heads, and the clanging sounds of the winged men falling could be heard. "Oh my God!" On the hill, Zhen Yifan took a deep breath and said, "Wei Chou is truly a brave general of the present age." Lin Muyu was silent. Her expression was solemn, but she could not help but feel a little proud. Wei Chou was her favorite general, and he had gradually grown into a leading general. This kid did not let her down. Chapter 593. The moonlight sprinkled on the land inside and outside Black Pine Pass like frost. To the south of the city, war drums thundered and torches lit up the sky. Hundreds of thousands of Iha country's troops were in battle formation. Finally, after the successive failures of the Qinyu country's strategy of crossing the mountains and crossing the sea by deception, Ding Shi and Long Qianlin had no choice but to fight head-on with Feng Jixing, who guarded the 3 passes, under the urging of Qin Yi, the commander-in-chief of Iha country. Creak, the axle of the siege catapult rotated, producing an extremely unpleasant sound. This was an improved catapult. Its entire body was made of steel, and its torque system was very sophisticated. It could be thrown up to a range of nearly 500 meters. It could be considered a secret weapon of the Iha country. Ding Shi's eyes were cold as he looked at the towering Black Pine Pass in the distance. He raised his hand and said, "Fire the torch stones immediately after entering the firing range and burn Black Pine Pass. Let's see how long Feng Jixing can hold out." The group of generals cupped their fists in unison. The next moment, flaming stones were placed into the trough of the catapult. Torch stones were a kind of flammable stone material wrapped in cotton and other materials. After being poured with black beech oil, they burned fiercely. Accompanied by a loud bang from the catapult, the torch stones soared into the sky and headed straight for Black Pine Pass. Bang, bang, bang. Most of the torch stones crashed onto the city wall, but many rolled into the fortress, burning the soldiers inside and causing them to scream in pain. "Put out the fire." Feng Jixing walked along the corridor with his hand on the hilt of his saber and said with a livid face, "Everyone hide well and don't get hit by the torch stones. Soldiers in the city carry water to extinguish the fire. Order those outside the city to quickly draw water from the nearest water source into the city." "Yes, Commander." At the edge of the fortress, Feng Jixing pressed his hand on the battlement and looked at the rumbling fire in the distance. He couldn't help but worry. The Iha nation had really begun to attack the fortress. Although the 3 passes were sturdy, they might not be able to hold out for long, especially after the Iha nation used this new type of catapult. There was already little water in the Qinling Mountains, so it was difficult to extinguish the fire. Moreover, the interior of the fortress was made of wood. Once it was set on fire, it would be difficult to save it. At this moment, Tang Lan walked up the stone steps with the help of a walking stick and coughed violently. "Your Highness, Seven Seas King." Feng Jixing hurriedly went forward and said, "You're not feeling well, why did you come up to the city yourself? Quickly go and rest, leave the matters here to me." Tang Shi also said, "Yes, Your Highness, just leave the matter here to us. Do you all think I'm so old that I'm about to die?" Tang Lan smiled and narrowed her eyes at the hundreds of thousands of mighty soldiers in Lingnan. She couldn't help but lament, if the 100 Ridge Cavalry that guards the Sword Pavilion is the strongest army in Yihe Nation, then Ding Shi and Long Qianlin's army should be the second strongest army in Yihe Nation. General Feng, are you confident that you can guard all 3 levels? Feng Jixing said, "For more than 3,000 years, the north and south of the Qinling Mountains have always been loyal to the imperial capital, and there has never been any war on the Qinling Mountains. Although Ink Pine Pass is majestic, there are very few war supplies. The walls are peeling and have been in disrepair for a long time. In addition, Yihe Nation has newly developed catapults. I'm afraid that if they continue to attack like this, Ink Pine Pass will collapse into ruins in less than 10 days. Tang Lan frowned. In that case, defending for a long time isn't a solution. Does General Feng have an idea? Yes, but I need the help of the Seven Seas King. What help? Feng Jixing said seriously, your grandson Tang Lu is not dead. He's leading 300,000 soldiers to guard the Seven Seas Pass and hasn't advanced. He even threatened that unless there's a letter from you, Seven Seas King, they won't obey your orders. It's said that Princess She has already mobilized the demon army to guard against any mishaps. So, Seven Seas King, please write a letter to me. I'll immediately send someone to summon Tang Lu and 300,000 elite soldiers. As long as we have these 300,000 elite soldiers, we can turn the tables and open the 3 levels to fight Long Qianlin and Ding Shi's armies. There's such a thing? Tang Lan smiled and said, perhaps the soldiers of Seven Seas City have been living in Seven Seas Province for a long time and can't stand the life in the south. I heard that many soldiers have fallen ill and need to recuperate. So, let's wait a little longer. When they've recovered their combat strength, I'll naturally order them to head to the front lines to fight against the demon race and Yihe Nation. Feng Jixing naturally knew what this old fox was thinking. He was waiting for the empire to be defeated, or for the Yihe Nation and the demon race to suffer heavy losses. In this way, the 300,000 elite soldiers of Seven Seas City could attack Lanyan City and become the new master of the empire. Unfortunately, Tang Xiaoxi had already led the demon army to surround and defend Lanyan City. Tang Lan's wishful thinking would ultimately fail. In that case, let's wait a little longer. A trace of coldness flashed across Feng Jixing's eyes as he said, not long ago, we received military intelligence from Lin Valley. The Empire's army suffered a great defeat. The deputy governor of Cloud Province, Su Lin, committed suicide. The God Might Battalion and Iron Blade Army were also defeated and suffered heavy losses. I'm afraid the Empire's army in Lin Valley won't be able to hold out for much longer. Tang Lan's face was grave and stern. General Feng, don't worry. In 2 days, Seven Seas City will send out their army. At the moment of the Empire's survival, I hope that Duke Lan will put the people of the world first. Feng Jixing looked at him deeply and said, once the Empire's army is destroyed, the demon race and Yihe Nation will take advantage of the situation and invade. I'm afraid that even the 300,000 elite soldiers of Seven Seas City won't be able to help. Your Highness, you're a businessman. I don't think you'll do any unprofitable business, right? Tang Lan was silent. He coughed violently and said, men, help me down. Looking at Tang Lan's receding figure, Feng Jixing clenched his fists and gnashed his teeth in hatred. Su Yu's voice was very cold. She didn't care about Tang Shi who was beside her and said, the Empire's survival is at stake, yet he's still hiding his strength and biding his time. He really doesn't know what's good for him. If he hadn't been so evasive, I'm afraid Iha Nation wouldn't have attacked Lanyan City. Feng Jixing didn't say anything. Instead, Tang Shi smiled faintly and said, when Duke Lan was evading, it seemed that Duke Yun of Twilight Rain City was also biding his time. Commander Su, you should have been by Duke Yun's side at that time. Don't you know what Duke Yun was thinking? Su'er was so angry that her face turned pale. She bit her red lips and didn't argue with Tang Shi. However, Feng Jixing took a deep breath and said, forget it, let's wait for another 2 days. Let's see if you and the Longdan army camp can resist the demon race. If news of Yu's defeat comes from the direction of Lin Valley, then I'll leave my commander's flag on Mo Song Pass. I'll lead 30,000 Imperial soldiers to reinforce Lin Valley at full speed. No matter what, I can't let anything happen to Her Highness Yin. Su'er nodded and said, yes. Tang Shi cupped his fists and said, General Feng, don't worry. Even if I have to sacrifice my life, I will definitely not let Long Qianlin and Ding Shi break through the 3 passes. Thousands of miles away, the sound of war drums rumbled on the main road. The 8 formation diagram, formed by the 45,000 soldiers of the Longdan army camp, was like a tough wedge that nailed the nearly 200,000 soldiers of the Thunderchong army camp to the east of the Unicorn Forest, making it impossible for them to advance. The sun was about to rise from the east, and the soldiers of the Longdan army camp had persevered for a whole night. Almost everyone was exhausted. Tiger Wing Formation, meet the enemy. Wei Chou raised his arm, his face full of smoke and dust, and said, fire black tortoises. Immediately, more than 100 staff members of the Beast Taming Department of the Divine Temple of Lanyan City stepped out of the battle formation. Their palms were enshrouded with spiritual power. Behind them, more than 100 huge fire-black tortoises stepped out of the formation. These fire-black tortoises curled up their bodies and protected themselves with flaming armor. Their bodies were filled with raging flames as they charged toward the armor demons. Boom, 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 balls of flames soared into the sky, and the screams of the demon tribe came one after another. The armor demons were afraid of fire. Their wings were flammable, and even their bodies were flammable. Moreover, the flames that the fire-black tortoises spat out were not ordinary wildfire, but a kind of mysterious fire that had been modified by spiritual power. Being burned by the mysterious fire, the armor demons had no way to survive. However, the number of fire-black tortoises was limited, and the armor demons were very ferocious. They charged forward fearlessly, attacking the black tortoises with axes and spears. Bang, bang, bang. Although the shells of the black tortoises were hard, they were not invincible. Soon, some black tortoises were injured. Among the armor demons, Lei Chong, who was wearing golden armor, appeared again. The blood-red Grandmaster Devil Force surrounded his warhammer. With one strike, a fire-black tortoise died. Little Red. In the 8 formation diagram, a staff member of the Divine Temple screamed. After communicating with the beast, he could feel the pain and fear of the fire-black tortoise when it died. This feeling was no different from his own death. The Longdan army camp is going to be defeated. Zhen Yifun's eyes shot out a ray of light. What should we do now? Lin Muyu said, retreat. Everyone retreat. The Longdan army camp will stay and hold up the rear. But, Qin Yin gritted her teeth, and golden ice crystals revolved around her palm. I will stay. With my strength, I can also help the Longdan army camp. Luo Exen, protect Grandpa and the Divine Marquis and retreat with the army. Luo Exen cupped her fists. Lin Muyu did not say anything else. If Qin Yin wanted to stay, then so be it. She might not be required to fight in the next battle anyway. At this time, the 8 formation diagram formed by the soldiers of the Longdan army camp was on the verge of collapse. After an entire night, the soldiers in the 8 formation diagram had suffered heavy casualties. At least half of the 45,000 soldiers had died. If they continued to fight, the entire army would be annihilated. Fortunately, the demons had also suffered heavy losses. Tonight, the 8 formation diagram had killed at least 30,000 armor demons. In addition to the 20,000 to 30,000 Wing tribe people, the losses of the Longdan army camp were worth it. Wei Chou stood on the platform and looked at Lin Muyu, who was on the hill in the distance. Lin Muyu was also looking at him. She raised her arm and pointed towards the north. Immediately, Wei Chou became excited. Beat the drums and withdraw the formation. Everyone, get on your horses and enter the valley in the north. Lin Muyu also lifted her sword and mounted her horse. Qin Yen, protect His Highness. Just watch the battle from here. I will go down and add some fuel to the fire. Yes, big brother. Chapter 594. More than 20,000 soldiers of the Long Dan battalion mounted their horses one after another, leaving a few hundred to bring up the rear, while the rest all rushed into the valley. On the hillside, Lin Muyu rode treading snow and rushed down like lightning. Her speed was extremely fast as she waved her long sword from a distance. Whoosh! Under the control of the sword-controlling technique, the star's sword rampaged and minced 3 armor demons in front of her into pieces. Go! As the commander, Lin Muyu personally covered the retreat of the soldiers. Facing the attack of dozens of armor demons, she waved her iron fist and dark force surged. She shouted and blasted out a chaotic lumen of all lives. With the current strength of Lin Muyu, the chaotic lumen of all lives was extremely powerful. A group of armor demons were easily peeled off their shells and died miserably. Lin Muyu. Lei Chong's roar came from afar. Lei Chong really hated this human commander. Lin Muyu made him taste the humiliation of failure. If he didn't kill Lin Muyu, Lei Chong would have no foothold as the commander of the demon clan. Chase them. We must kill them all. Lin Muyu's people are already an arrow at the end of its flight. Lei Chong roared. The high-level demon advisor grabbed Lei Chong's arm hurriedly and said, Marshal, don't be impulsive. Have you forgotten Marshal Qianfeng's words? Don't chase a cornered enemy. Lin Muyu is full of tricks. She won't withdraw the formation for no reason. You'd better wait for Marshal Qianfeng's order. Wait my ass. Lei Chong roared angrily. Qianfeng must be afraid that I'll steal the credit. Damn, I'm going to annihilate Lin Muyu's Longdan army camp this time. I'll take Lin Muyu's head back and show Qianfeng my ability. Everyone, charge and annihilate the Longdan army camp. The eyes of those armored demons turned red as they lost their senses after being driven mad. Plus Lei Chong, the irrational commander-in-chief, all the armored demons instantly poured into the unknown valley and chased after Lin Muyu's remaining soldiers. Amidst the messy sounds of horse hooves, Lin Muyu spurred her warhorse to slowly retreat to the back of the formation. She would use the chaotic lumen of the common to take care of the armor demons that were charging at the front. The chaotic lumen of the common consumed less battle energy. Furthermore, with her twin martial souls absorbing the surrounding spiritual energy, she could use the chaotic lumen of the common every 5 minutes to ensure that her battle energy was abundant. Therefore, Lin Muyu was not stingy with this area of effect martial skill. Outside the valley, the armor demon legion rushed over. Under the light of the morning sun, everything was black. Wei Chou couldn't help but snicker. I've fallen into their trap. Order everyone to leave quickly. Try to minimize casualties. I don't know whether Citizen is ready or not. Don't worry, Your Excellency. Don't worry about General Senior. Good. Lei Chong's advisor, Feng Xiuye, was a 5-star demon sect expert and also one of Qianfeng's capable generals. Feng Xiuye was a distant relative of Demon Emperor Feng Yuan. Because of his high cultivation base and meticulous mind, he was put in an important position. Before leaving, Qianfeng had repeatedly warned him to stabilize Lei Chong, the reckless commander-in-chief. However, at this moment, it seemed that he couldn't stabilize Lei Chong at all. Looking at the surrounding terrain, Feng Xiuye kept observing. The valley was very spacious. It was almost 5 miles wide. It was almost impossible to attack with fire in such a long valley. It was impossible for humans to ambush them with arrow boxes and ballistas. Almost all the armor demons under Lei Chong's command were equipped with battle shields. Therefore, the lethality of the ballistas and arrow boxes was very limited. Even though the white diamond arrows could penetrate heavy armors, they were too precious for humans to afford. At this moment, Feng Xiuye began to be sure. War was originally a gamble. Perhaps Lei Chong's recklessness had won the gamble this time. This was a great opportunity to annihilate the Longdan army camp. The mighty armor demon legion poured into the valley. They didn't chase after Su Miyun and Luo Xian's remnant troops. Instead, they chose to chase after the Longdan army camp. It showed how much the demon clan hated the Longdan army camp. Kill them all. Don't let any of them go. Lei Chong laughed loudly. He smashed the soldiers of the Longdan army camp into pieces one by one with his warhammer. The blood splashed on his face and armor. He didn't wipe it off, which made him look even more ferocious. Damn it! Lin Muyu looked back at Lei Chong from afar and said, "This bastard has killed many humans. Today is the best opportunity to kill him. We can't let Lei Chong go back alive no matter what." Wei Chou smiled and said, "Don't worry, madam. Have we passed the minefield? We're almost there." Lin Muyu raised her head and looked at the mountains on both sides. She could vaguely see the sunlight reflected by the magic crystal cannons. She smiled and said, "It seems that Situ Sen and Situ Shui are ready." Wei Chou frowned and observed the terrain. He suddenly pointed forward and said, "Madam, the white grassland in front is the safe zone. We're going to turn around and fight the enemy." "Okay." Lin Muyu suddenly pulled out her long sword and shouted, "Turn around and use the heavenly book." The group of people who brought up the rear were basically all military officers. One after another, they turned their horses around and raised the tool embryos in their hands. Dozens of tool embryos were raised at the same time. All of them were fire spirit books and earth spirit books. Swish, 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 swish. Heavenly flames descended from the sky, burning all the pursuing devils to death. At the same time, Situ Sen's and Situ Shui's troops who were lying in ambush on both sides of the mountain range also made their move. Situ Sen lifted the straw covering his head and said in a low voice, "Fire the cannons." Dong, dong, dong. The war drums rumbled. This was the signal for the Longdan army camp to counterattack. In an instant, the 100 magic crystal cannons on both sides of the mountain were fired. Tongues of fire spewed out from both sides of the mountain. Bang, bang, bang. Purple lightning fell from the sky, and mushroom clouds soared into the sky. The explosions of the magic crystal cannons produced lightning, flames, and fierce impact. For a moment, the whole valley seemed to be blooming. The armor demons on both sides of the mountain were torn into pieces by the explosions of the magic crystal cannons. They were panicking like wild beasts that were being hunted. "It's over." Feng Xiuye's face was pale. He said, "We've been tricked. What kind of weapon is that? It's so powerful. Damn Lin Muyu. What should we do?" Lei Chong roared, "Fight them to the death." Feng Xiuye hurried to stop him. He said, "The range of their weapons is very short. It's less than 1,000 meters. Order everyone to gather at the center of the valley. We'll retreat slowly." But although Lei Chong was rash, he wouldn't force it even if he knew that he had been tricked. However, at this moment, the explosions of the magic crystal cannons on both sides of the valley caused lightning to wreak havoc on the ground. The mountain rocks were burned red. Suddenly, the soil under the ground began to swell. With a bang, a purple mushroom cloud soared into the sky. Hundreds of armor demons were torn into pieces. They didn't even have the chance to scream. There were more underground. At this moment, Feng Xiuye's heart was like dead ashes. He understood everything. This was a grave that Lin Muyu had prepared for the demons. The reason was simple. The explosion of the magic crystal cannons could produce lightning and high temperature. Qin Xiling had tested it repeatedly. Within 50 meters of the explosion of a magic crystal cannon, another magic crystal cannon could be detonated. Therefore, Lin Muyu had ordered Wei Chou to bury almost all the magic crystal cannons evenly in the valley. There must be a magic crystal cannon every 50 meters in the valley. Boom, boom, boom. It was like purgatory. The explosions created a carpet effect of destruction. The invincible armor demons were so helpless in this disaster. They fled in panic and were then blown into pieces. On the hillside, Qin Yin, Qin Yen, and the rest were also stunned. Everyone knew that Lin Muyu was researching a new weapon. However, no one had expected that the weapon he was researching would have such destructive power. The cannons on both sides of the valley were unceasing. The demons couldn't advance or retreat. If they advanced, there was the army led by Lin Muyu and Wei Chou with the white drill arrows. If they retreated, the valley had already been cut off by the 20,000 elite soldiers led by Fengxi and Su Jiantao. This time, Lin Muyu had used the entire Longdan army camp. His appetite was just that big. He wanted to destroy the entire Lei Chong army with the strength of a human army. Lei Chong's recklessness had led to his own failure. Nearly 130,000 armor demons had followed him into the valley, but in less than half an hour, they were all wiped out. Charred corpses of armor demons and high-level demons were everywhere. The smell of burnt flesh filled the air. In the sky, a group of Wing tribe people saw the scene in the valley. They were all so scared that they shed tears. Apart from crying and fear, what else could they say? This was a weapon that they couldn't imagine. Kill. We must kill our way out. Lei Chong raised his warhammer and led dozens of armor demons towards the east of the mountain range. That was where the demons came from. As long as they could charge through this mountain, they would be able to return to the demon territory. On the mountain range, Sidu Shui looked at Lei Chong's battered and exhausted appearance with her clear eyes. She said calmly, "Order the magic crystal cannons to adjust their accuracy and aim at Lei Chong. Lord said that we must kill Lei Chong. Blast him to death." The magic crystal cannons turned around and aimed at Lei Chong. When the cooldown was almost over, 3 magic crystal cannons fired at the same time. Bang! A mushroom cloud exploded. Lei Chong let out a miserable howl. His entire body was blown away by the fierce impact of the magic crystal cannons. He fell dozens of meters away like a withered leaf. The armor demons that followed him were all blown to pieces. Lei Chong's arm was injured, and the armor on his body was peeling off. Blood kept flowing from his mouth. Woo-woo, he was like a wounded beast. Looking at Sidu Shui on the mountain range, he roared, "You can't kill me." As soon as he finished speaking, another magic crystal cannon burst into a dazzling flame under his feet. Boom! Lei Chong's body was lifted up again. The earth energy on the surface of his body was blown to pieces, and the flesh on his chest was burnt to the point that his bones could almost be seen. However, he still stood up with the support of his warhammer. His head was burnt bald, and his face was full of malevolence. He roared, "You despicable people! You only know how to scheme." Sidu Shui slowly raised her arm, and the magic crystal cannon shot out again. Bang! Lei Chong's arm that was holding the warhammer flew into the sky together with it. Chapter 595. Tell Sidu Shui to stop the bombardment. Lin Muyu suddenly said, "Yes." Although Wei Chou was somewhat puzzled, he still waved the flag and ordered Sidu Shui to stop the bombardment. After nearly an hour of bombardment, there were no more armored demons left in the valley. Lei Chong was an exception. Holding her star sword, Lin Muyu spurred her snow-treading horse towards Lei Chong's direction. When the smoke dispersed, Lin Muyu saw Lei Chong standing in the wilderness awkwardly, surrounded by terrifying craters. Apart from that, there were broken body parts of the armor demons everywhere. A burnt smell filled Lin Muyu's nose. Lin Muyu. Lei Chong's golden armor had been melted and stuck to his body, making him look like he was cast. He stood trembling in the smoke and roared, "Are you satisfied now? My army is gone, all gone. Are you finally satisfied now? You demon, you killing god." Lin Muyu didn't say anything. She rode forward and gently pressed the stellar sword on Lei Chong's shoulder. "Kneel down. In your dreams. Kneel down." Lin Muyu roared. The Holy King domain covered the sky and the earth. The stellar sword trembled slightly. The rank 6 divine seal was quietly enhancing Lin Muyu's coercion ability. Lei Chong was seriously injured, so how could he resist? He knelt in front of Lin Muyu, but his scarlet eyes were full of resentment and unwillingness. Lei Chong looked at her fiercely and said, "If you kill me, the divine race will still trample the human territory. Just wait and see, Qianfeng will definitely avenge me, ha." Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh. "Do you still remember that time in Winterfrost City when you cut off Lord Du Hai's head in order to cover my retreat? I will never forget that scene. I have cut off countless heads in my life. I don't know which one you are talking about." "It doesn't matter. You'll end up the same way soon anyway." Lin Muyu did not wait for Lei Chong to speak again. Her sword flashed past and with a kacha, Lei Chong's gigantic head flew up into the sky. Lin Muyu quickly pulled out her sword and stabbed his head into the sword, raising it up high. On both sides of the mountain range, the human army cheered. Almost everyone felt like they had just survived a disaster. Wiping out Lei Chong's entire army should be an unprecedented victory for humans and the Longdan army camp, right? Before long, Qin Yin, Qin Yen, Citizen, Shui, and the rest all came to the valley one after another. Qin Yen cupped his fists and said with a smile, "Congratulations to Big Brother for establishing such an unparalleled miraculous merit." Situ Shui said, "Milord is indeed smart." Hehe, Lei Chong, this boorish fellow, still fell for it in the end. However, Lin Muyu wasn't too happy. The victory at the Longdan army camp was too difficult to come by. Not only did they lose close to 30,000 troops, they had also used up almost all of their magic crystal cannons. What was worse was that the demon race wasn't completely wiped out. They still had a very strong military force in the Zonglin Valley area. Military intelligence. Lin Muyu held Qin Yin's small hand and said to the people behind her. Feng Shi cupped his fists and said, "We seem to have only wiped out a large portion of the Lei Chong army in this battle. They still have about 30,000 armor demons coming as reinforcements. They will arrive in about an hour. Milord, should we ambush them again and wipe them out too? 30,000 people?" Lin Muyu couldn't help but feel a chill in her heart. She said, "No, let's retreat. Our cannons are about to be used up. Our arrows are exhausted and our weapons are severely damaged. If we fight another 30,000 armor demons, even if we can wipe them out, we will have to pay the price of the entire Longdan army camp. Pass down my order, everyone retreat." Situsen said, "Milord, the magic crystal cannons are too heavy. It took us 2 days to move them from the flat ground to the mountain. If we carry them down, I'm afraid it will be too late." Lin Muyu gritted her teeth and said, "Block the barrels of the magic crystal cannons and detonate them. Don't leave any for the demon race or the Iha country. Just take all the magic crystal cannons." Wei Chou was stunned and said with distress, "Commander, 100 magic crystal cannons. Are we just going to give them up?" "No, it's too late. Blow them all up." "Yes. Retreat." With a wave of the flag, the Longdan army camp retreated from the valley. They left in such a hurry that they didn't even have time to bury their companions' corpses. But that was the way of war. Small-hearted kindness would only bring greater losses or even death. At this time, the news that the valiant dragon army had annihilated the Thunderchong army in the Nameless Valley had not yet spread. The only news that reached the Iha country was that the Empire's army had suffered a crushing defeat and the demon race had also suffered a great loss. Lin Muyu was setting up the 8-formation maze on the path of retreat to deal with the Thunderchong army. Sword Garrett. Qin Yi, clad in a golden dragon robe, stood majestically on the Sword Garrett stronghold. He looked at the misty Zonglin Valley in the distance. His eyes flickered with a profound light. "What's the latest military intelligence?" Jiao cupped his fists excitedly and said, "Qin Yin has lost. Su Long's army was annihilated and Su Long committed suicide. More than 70% of the Godmight battalion was killed and 50% of the Steelblade army was injured or killed. It is said that the demon race even set fire to their provisions. Currently, the Empire's army has completely retreated from the Zonglin Valley." Lin Muyu fought against the Thunderchong army with only tens of thousands of soldiers and suffered a great loss. I estimate that the Empire's army has lost more than half of the 300,000 soldiers in the Lin Valley. There are only 120,000 soldiers left. You mean Qin Yin only has 100,000 soldiers with her? That's right. Then, Qin Yi squinted and smiled. How are the demon race's losses? Ji Yao said, both sides lost about 1 against 4. The Empire lost 200,000 soldiers and the demon race lost about 50,000. However, the 8-formation maze that Lin Muyu set up is said to be very powerful. It has already caused the Thunderchong army to lose tens of thousands of soldiers. And according to the information that our spies sent back, the demon race only sent a total of 150,000 soldiers into the Lin Valley. Most of them have already died. Qin Yi touched the cold battlement and said, Qian Feng is cunning and cannot be careless. Where is he now? I don't know. Ji Yao smiled slightly and said, but I will congratulate the commander. Why do you congratulate? We have just received a letter. The human army that the demon race is building has already crossed the Cloud Ridge and is taking advantage of the situation to attack Tianshu Province and Yunzhong Province. If there are no accidents, Tianshu Province and Yunzhong Province are empty of soldiers and will soon change hands. But now, Qian Feng is most likely not in the Lin Valley anymore. He is commanding the attack on Yunzhong Province and Tianshu Province. What? Qin Yi's body trembled. The demon race is attacking Yunzhong Province? This? Su Muyun, that old fox's nest. That's right. Ji Yao smiled and said, Yunzhong Province and Tianshu Province are the provinces where the Empire's population is concentrated. They provide a lot of soldiers. Qian Feng is not a fool. Occupying these 2 provinces means a lot to him. If it wasn't for these 2 provinces being too tempting, why would Qian Feng come to our sword pavilion personally to discuss the matter of dividing the Empire's territory? Qin Yi took a deep breath. How many people does the Lei Chong army have? Less than 100,000. Can Lin Muyu block Lei Chong's attack? Obviously not. The demon race's armored demon army is invincible in the field. Even Marshal Long's Iron Chain formation is not a match for Lei Chong, not to mention a mere Lin Muyu. Commander, we cannot hesitate anymore. The opportunity is fleeting. If we wait any longer, Lei Chong will destroy Lin Muyu's army. By then, it will be too late for us to say anything. All right. Qin Yi heavily punched the battlement and turned to the group of generals and said, Ji Yao, listen to my order. You will be the frontline marshal and lead 200,000 soldiers out of the sword pavilion. Set up 10,000 arrow boxes and ambush the Lei Chong army from the rear. Qin Huan, listen to my order. You will lead 100,000 soldiers out of the sword pavilion and take a detour through the Qinling Mountains to attack Lin Muyu's rear. Tomorrow at noon, we will attack together. Yes. Qin Huan raised his head and said, Father, we are going to destroy Lin Muyu, capture Qin Yin, and kill Lei Chong. Qin Yi's eyes were filled with an unquestionable look. Indeed, if they did not seize this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, the Iha kingdom would never be able to show off their power as the ruler of the continent. After all, Qin Yi was very clear about the empire's strength. Once Qin Yin was given enough time to organize all the feudal vassals, even 2 Iha kingdoms would not be a match for the empire. Southwest of the Zonglin Valley, in the middle of the Qinling Mountains, there was a valley with birds chirping and flowers fragrant. It was already spring. The Turtle Valley was a valley embedded in the Qinling Mountains. It was surrounded by mountains and it was spring all year round. At this moment, the sound of hooves and training could be heard from the Turtle Valley. There was also an endless stream of food being transported into the valley. Battle flags fluttered in the wind. Hidden in the Turtle Valley were the remaining 50,000 soldiers of Xiang Yu's army. On the mountain peak, Xiang Yu held the bloodthirsty spear and looked into the distance. His face was full of anxiety. Military report. Military report is here. A messenger shouted joyfully from afar. What military report? Xiang Yu's body trembled as he went forward and asked joyfully. The messenger replied, The sword pavilion has sent out their troops. I heard that the sword pavilion has sent out 300,000 soldiers for this morning's incident. The Iha kingdom has almost turned out all their troops in the Lingnan province. That's great. Xiang Yu clenched his fists, his face filled with ecstasy. It's time to make a great contribution. Brothers, eat and drink to your heart's content. Let's attack at night. Yes. In the Sword Pavilion, the last few thousand-man battalions in the Lingnan province had already galloped out of the Sword Pavilion and entered a fertile field. Qin Yi watched the army leave, his heart filled with anticipation and worry at the same time. However, he did not know that in the dense forest to the northeast of the Sword Pavilion, countless armor demons were silently lying in the weeds. All of them were gripping their weapons tightly. As for the commander-in-chief, Qianfeng, his eyes were filled with coldness as he looked into the distance. Whoosh whoosh, a winged person flapped his wings and descended from the sky. With a dejected expression, he cried, "Commander-in-chief, something bad has happened. Commander-in-chief Lei Chang's troops have been defeated in the valley. More than 100,000 soldiers have perished. Commander-in-chief Lei Chong has died in battle." What? Qianfeng trembled as he stood there, his face pale. How could this be? How could this be? Chapter 596. Lei Chong led 200,000 soldiers. How did he lose? Qianfeng calmed down and looked at the winged person coldly. The winged man's arms and the wings on his back trembled at the same time. He said, "I couldn't see it clearly, but Marshal Lei Chong's troops were attacked by the humans outside of Songlin Valley. Later, the humans were defeated. Marshal Lei Chong led an army of more than 100,000 armor demons into a desolate valley. Then, something strange happened. The humans launched an attack with a weapon that could spit fire. The earth exploded, and the sky turned into blood clouds. Even Marshal Lei Chong and General Feng Xiuye were killed in the explosion." A weapon that could spit fire? Qianfeng frowned. Whose army defeated Lei Chong? It was the Longdan army camp. It's Lin Muyu again. Qianfeng gritted his teeth and growled, "Lin Muyu has ruined our celestial race's plans again and again. Damn it." Next to him, a high-ranking demon general wearing the insignia of a captain asked respectfully, "Marshal, the 300,000 elites of the Iha nation have already left the Sword Pavilion. In another 2 hours, they will completely leave the Sword Pavilion's territory. Should we continue with our mission?" Of course, why not? Qianfeng's face was full of murderous intent. He raised his fist and said, "Send my order to the entire army. Move out immediately. This time, we will first take care of Iha nation, then Lin Muyu and the Empire's army. Someone, summon the big guys to help us. We must eliminate the 300,000 soldiers of Iha nation with the least losses." Woo woo woo. Above the mountains, the demon's conch sounded through the clouds. Instantly, countless armor demons hiding in the dense forest rushed out with shields. As the conch and the winged person waved the flags in the air, countless demon troops rushed out from the mountains in the east, south, and north of Songlin Valley. Their flags fluttered in the air. Qianfeng was not going to attack Heaven's Pivot Province or Cloud Province. He had at least 200,000 soldiers lying in ambush here. What's wrong? In Songlin Valley, the densely packed Iha country troops were advancing at high speed. Suddenly, a howling sound was heard from the mountains on both sides. Jiao could not help but rein in his warhorse, looked into the distance and asked, "What's going on?" Yi Xuanhuan frowned and said, It seems like the horn of the demon race to attack." "How is that possible? Didn't the military report just say that the demons have already been defeated?" "Humph, do you think that a mere few tens of thousands of remnant soldiers can attack my 300,000 elite soldiers? The fiend race is looking down on people too much." With that, Jiao raised his fist and ordered loudly, "Warriors of the Iha nation, summon your courage and prepare to kill the enemy. They only have a few tens of thousands of people. Get into our formation and fight." Dong 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 dong. As the war drums made of cowhide rumbled, the Iha kingdom's army stopped and formed a defensive formation in the 10-mile valley. At this time, they could vaguely see the figures of the armored demon army in the distance. They were so dense that they covered the mountains and plains, and the winged people also appeared in the sky, blocking out the sun. It doesn't look like there are only a few tens of thousands of them. Yi Xuanhuan squinted and said angrily, "We've been tricked. The demon race has not been defeated at all. This is just a show put on by the demon race and the empire to lure us out of seclusion." "Impossible," Ji Yao said coldly. "If they use the Thunderchong army as the price to lure us out of seclusion, the price is too high. Only the Qianfeng army is attacking us. Pass down my order, get ready to fight. Tell the rear to retreat slowly and open up the main road between us and the Sword Garret." "It's too late. If the Qianfeng army really wanted to surround and kill us, the Sword Garret would have been attacked." "Humph, that's impossible." Ji Yao turned around and bowed respectfully to Ouyang Yen, who was riding on a white warhorse, and said, "Imperial Preceptor, the demon race has framed us. Now we are in a dilemma. Imperial Preceptor, please fight side by side with us and kill our way out." "Don't worry." Ouyang Yen looked at the demon race army from afar and said with a smile, "Are those the demon race? I have cultivated in the heaven realm for thousands of years, but I didn't know there was such a race in the mortal world. Marshal Ji Yao, just fight. I will help you." Ji Yao abruptly drew out his saber as he started to command the core of Iha country to resist the demon's attack. Shields fell onto the ground one after another and formed a shield formation. From the gaps of the shields, long spears with cold light were thrusting out obliquely. Behind the shields, immature faces were watching the armored demons surging towards them like tidewater. These young soldiers had almost not seen demons. However, they had to fight demons at the risk of their lives in such a dilemma. "Gather your courage." A centurion held his sword and shouted with a trembling voice, "We are the warriors of the Iha country. For our ideals, for the peace of the world, we will have no regrets even if our blood is spilled on this land. Get ready to fight." Although he was shouting, his hands were shaking so much that the scabbard on his waist and the sword ring collided with each other. It was very funny. Howl. In the boundless valley, the armor demons, which were nearly 10 miles long, swept over. Waving their weapons, the armor demons crazily rushed into the position of the Iha country. Bang, bang, bang. They broke the steel shields of the Iha country and stabbed their spears and battle axes into the bodies of the Iha country soldiers. Blood splashed like red wildflowers blooming in the early spring. Arrows release. Steel ballistas ready. Yi Xuanhuan commanded the battle loudly. Meanwhile, he had already pulled out his sword and slashed an armor demon into two halves, which greatly boosted the morale of the Iha country. However, there were too many armor demons. After killing a dozen of them, Yi Xuanhuan felt that his strength was not enough. Panting heavily, he spurred his horse back. Behind the crowd, giant ballistas at least 5 m long were set up one after another. Each ballista was loaded with 7 to 8 dark giant arrows. These were the new weapons developed by the Iha country. A dozen soldiers pulled the ropes one after another. After accumulating strength, they suddenly loosened the ropes. Instantly, the arrows flew out violently and directly penetrated the hard armor of the armor demons. After one round of shooting, dozens of armor demons were killed. Shields up. A human language came from the rear of the armor demons. The high-level demons were supervising the battle. Armor demons were not intelligent, but the high-level demons were very shrewd. For a moment, all the armor demons raised their shields and crazily rushed forward. Facing the shooting of the steel ballistas, they didn't retreat at all. In the blink of an eye, they broke the second line of defense of the Iha country and waved their weapons to kill indiscriminately. These bastards! Ji Yao sat in the center of the army, hand on the hilt of his sword. Looking around, he said, "Continue to form a line of defense. Don't let the demons break into the center easily. Archers, shoot the enemies." However, everybody knew that the arrows shot by human hands were not powerful enough. Even if the armor demons were not equipped with armors, these arrows could not penetrate through the hard skin of the armor demons, not to mention that the armor demons were equipped with armors. Howl, Howl, howl. In the roar, the armor demons attacked crazily and hit the shield of the Iha country with their bodies, which scared the soldiers of the Iha country out of their wits. At this moment, there was a sudden burning sensation. In the air, the rocks within dozens of meters in the valley were instantly burned red, and flames erupted from the ground. In the screams, the armor demons fell into a sea of fire. In the air, Ouyangyan stepped on the flames barefoot and looked at the armor demons coldly. She said, "They are indeed a group of monsters." She raised her palm, and in the blink of an eye, another wave of divine power was launched. The raging flames gathered in her palm and formed a huge flaming blade that was at least 100 meters long. The corners of Ouyangyan's mouth curled up, and with a shout, she launched a fierce attack. Boom! The giant flame saber cut the crowd of armor demons into pieces, and even flattened a hill that was nearly 10 meters high not far away. The next moment, the giant flame saber suddenly exploded and spread to both sides. At least 500 armor demons had been killed and injured in just one attack. At the same time, Ouyangyan didn't have any scruples at all. Even the dozens of Iha country soldiers nearby were burned to ashes. My God! Ji Yao was dumbfounded. A chiliarch of Iha country gritted his teeth and said angrily in a low voice, "This goddess actually killed the soldiers of Iha country. Is she really sent by the heavenly realm to reinforce our Iha country?" How could Ouyangyan not hear it? However, this kind of complaint was like the curse of an ant to her. What difference did it make if she heard it or not? At this moment, there was a sudden dull roar of a beast from the sky. Roar, roar, roar. Yi Xuanhuan hurriedly looked over and saw a huge monster flying over from the other side of the mountain range. It was a monster covered with scales. It was about 100 meters long, and its body was like a bloated giant snake. Its head was very ferocious, and its back and wings were covered with black spikes. Anyone could see that this thing was not easy to deal with. What kind of monster is that? Ji Yao swallowed his saliva, and his heart was filled with fear. It's probably a kind of spirit beast. Yi Xuanhuan had the cultivation of the Holy King realm, so he was naturally much calmer than Ji Yao. I have never seen such a huge spirit beast. Ji Yao pulled out his long sword and roared, "What do we do? Who can deal with this big guy?" Fire Dance Divine Monarch Ouyangyan's palm was enshrouded in flames, and she said calmly, "Commander Yi, if you don't fight this monster, then I'll have to go." Yi Xuanhuan respectfully cupped his fists and said, "This subordinate is only at the Holy King realm. This monster looks very powerful, so I will have to rely on your majesty to personally subdue it." Ouyangyan laughed coldly. The giant flying snake was a new species in the demon race's insect nest. It was also a new overlord class of the demon race. The flying snake didn't rely on its wings to fly. The fins on both sides of its body were very short and could not support its flight at all. The only thing that could truly allow its huge body to fly was the force field that existed within its body. Wherever the flying snake flew, the ground would be instantly crushed into powder. This could be seen from this. The giant flying snake's eyes were very ferocious. It twisted its huge body and suddenly rushed down, opening its bloody mouth. As expected, an azure blue halo rapidly expanded in its mouth like a whirlpool. It was actually absorbing. Chapter 597. What's going on? The Iha nation soldiers standing amidst the rubble and holding heavy shields were all dumbfounded. Their bodies actually moved forward involuntarily. A strong wind blew, and the flying snake's bloody mouth was like a huge force field that swept everything in its path. Pieces of rubble were first absorbed by the giant flying snake. Sharp teeth appeared behind the blue force field in its mouth, grinding all the rubble into pieces. God D***, what kind of monster is this? Yi Xuanhuan gritted his teeth. Amidst the screams, Iha nation soldiers were continuously sucked into the giant flying snake's mouth and turned into a pile of minced meat. This giant flying snake had a really good appetite. Not only did it not spit out bones after eating people, it even ate shields, spears, and swords. In the air, Fire Dance celestial monarch Ouyang Yen was indifferent. Her gaze was indifferent as she observed the flying snake's movements, as if she had no intention of taking action. Jiao could not help but shout, "Use the heavenly book! I want to see if this flying snake can eat the power of heaven and earth." A dozen or so Kiliarchs urged their horses forward and raised the weapons in their hands. In the blink of an eye, more than a dozen heavenly books were activated. Rock walls, flames, and icy rays danced wildly as they charged at the flying snake. The flying snake trembled and roared in a terrifying manner. Its eyes were filled with ferocity, and the force field in its mouth became even more piercingly cold. As expected, the power of the heavenly book that was pouncing at the flying snake's huge body was also absorbed. The rock walls, flames, and other energy disappeared in the blink of an eye, forcibly digested by the force field. This giant flying snake could really eat the power of heaven and earth. The flying snake's body trembled, and the spikes on its body surface shot out countless amounts of venomous liquid. Instantly, hundreds of Iha Nation soldiers on the ground died. How is this possible? Jiao took a few steps back. In his heart, the heavenly book was a sacred and untouchable item, a divine item that was bestowed to the human world by the heaven realm. How could the power of heaven and earth be absorbed by an idiot like the giant flying snake? At this moment, Ouyang Yen finally made her move. She stepped into the air and slowly walked toward the flying snake. Her palms were filled with vigorous flames, and the corners of her mouth curled into a faint smile. What a sweet spirit stone! The flying snake roared furiously and suddenly charged at Ouyang Yen. Its bloody mouth was still open, and it forcefully absorbed everything in the world. Immediately, nearly 100 righteous nation soldiers howled miserably as they were sucked in and minced into pieces. Ouyang Yan's body stepped into the flying snake's force field amidst the corpses of the righteous nation soldiers. In the blink of an eye, Ouyang Yen activated the vast divine power of the law of fire in her body and shouted angrily, "Beast, you want to eat me? Do you have such a good appetite? If you want to eat, then eat. I'll let you eat your fill." Flames soared into the sky, and in the blink of an eye, the halo of the flying snake's force field was burned red. It roared cruelly and continued to absorb Ouyang Yan's power. It had no other choice. The body of the giant flying snake gradually expanded. The divine power of a divine king was too vast. Even if Ouyang Yen did not have a divine spark, her power was still maintained at the divine king realm. In the blink of an eye, the body of the flying snake seemed to expand to the point that it was about to explode. Cracks appeared between the scales on its body, and wisps of flames spurted out from the cracks. Ouyang Yan's divine power of fire was too strong, so the giant flying snake had to use this method to reduce the force. Finally, there was a sudden explosion in the air. Flames soared into the sky, and the power was earth-shattering. The huge body of the giant flying snake disintegrated inch by inch and was devoured by the flames. Its heavy body fell with a loud bang, lying between two mountains. It was like a divine dragon that had fallen from the heaven realm, and its body was completely burned by the flames. Ouyang Yen was still standing in the air. She spread her 5 fingers, and a suction force quickly sucked the giant flying snake's spirit stone out of its head. It was a huge spirit stone with a radius of 10 centimeters. Ouyang Yen couldn't help but smile. She opened her mouth lightly, and a golden energy was spat out. It was the heart-devouring secret arts Xian energy. This golden energy quickly lingered around the spirit stone, disintegrating the spirit stone inch by inch into pure energy. Then, it was absorbed and refined by Ouyang Yen one by one. Not long after, the huge spirit stone had actually been completely absorbed. Ouyang Yen couldn't help but let out a satisfied cry. She stood in the air with her peaks at least 36 and breathed for a while. When she opened her eyes, the light in her eyes became even more vigorous. Her cultivation had increased again. "Congratulations, Grand Preceptor." Jiaozi rushed forward and cupped his fists. "I'm afraid that if there are a few more monsters, Grand Preceptor's power will be enough to condense a divine spark." "Oomph." Ouyang Yen could not help but sneer. Do you think it is so easy to condense a divine king-level divine spark? Forget about a few more, even if there are 100 of such monsters, you will not be able to condense a divine spark. Ji Yao was given the cold shoulder, and he stood there awkwardly. General Ji, go and command the battle. I will help you. Ouyang Yen said indifferently. Ji Yao turned around, raised his long sword, and shouted, "Kill the enemy bravely, long live the Iha nation." Ouyang Yen killing the flying snake was undoubtedly a victory for the Iha nation. It greatly boosted the morale of the Iha nation, which was originally on the verge of collapse, and made the Iha nation's battle formation regroup and continue to fight against the devil race. The fierce battle continued until dusk, but the Iha nation's situation became more and more disadvantageous. The devil race's offensive was too fierce, and their combat power was too strong. The Iha nation's 200,000 elite soldiers were forcibly cut into 7 or 8 pieces, and they fought separately in the valley. Even Ji Yao's command could not be unified. Qianfeng used the cutting tactic to break the Iha nation's combat power. This was something that Ji Yao and Yi Xuanhuan could not do at all. The sunset sprinkled on the battlefield like blood. Ji Yao's face was full of disappointment. He knew that the situation was hopeless. After half a day of fierce fighting, more than half of the 200,000 elite soldiers under his control had been lost. Now, the only thing he could rely on was the 100,000 elite soldiers led by Qin Huan. As long as Qin Huan led the army to break through the devil race's encirclement from the west of the Zhonglin Valley, his group still had a chance to survive. At least, there was a chance that he could survive. Flames swept the valley, and a group of armored demons screamed. Ouyang Yen withdrew and flew back. After a day of killing, she had already used up more than half of her divine power. She needed a good rest, otherwise, her strength would not be able to recover. Are you all right, Grand Preceptor? Yi Xuanhuan asked with concern. I'm fine. Ouyang Yen sat on a protruding rock, and her body was surrounded by golden flames. She took a deep breath and said, "Today's battle has already ended. Doesn't Marshal Ji have any idea of breaking through?" Yi Xuanhuan said, "The devil race has at least 30,000 soldiers blocking the west exit of the Zhonglin Valley. It will be difficult for us to break through." Moreover, there was no reply to the letter sent to His Highness Qin Huan. "I'm afraid that they are also in danger." "Oh," Ouyang Yen said lightly, "if that's the case, then we can only protect ourselves. Commander Yi, you should quickly gather your subordinates to break through the west. Otherwise, the Iha country's army will all be buried here." 30 miles away, at dusk, under the Qinling Mountains, the 100,000 elite soldiers led by Qin Huan were moving slowly. Hua, hua, hua. A messenger bird descended from the sky and landed on the shoulder of a captaincy. He took out the letter and glanced at it. He couldn't help but tremble. "What did Royal Father say?" Qin Huan said lightly, "Did he order us to reinforce Marshal Ji, or?" The major commander shook his head and said, "Great Commander ordered us to continue advancing towards the west and attack the nearest Tanshi Pass from the north, while he will order Long Qianlin and Ding Shi to attack Tanshi Pass from the south. After taking down Tanshi Pass in one fell swoop, the troops will advance to Swift White Province and join forces with the Marquis of the Sunset, Man Ning." Is Royal Father going to give up Marshal Ji's 200,000 elite soldiers? Qin Huan was stunned. "I'm afraid that the 200,000 elite soldiers are gone. Since we have already fallen into the trap, even if we go to reinforce now, it will be of no use. Little Highness, let's act according to the plan. Speed up the march." When the moonlight rose in the Zhangnan province of the Qinling Mountains at the Turtle Valley, a row of elite soldiers wearing the Empire's armor came out in a line. They entered Lingnan through the small path of the Turtle Valley. Everyone mounted their horses and galloped quickly in the direction of Bailing City. At the front of the formation was Xiang Yu, who wore the Empire's commander insignia. Bailing City was the center of the Zhangnan province. It was also the economic and ruling center of the entire Iha country. As long as Bailing City was captured, The Iha country would be like a beast that had its heart stolen, and its strength would be greatly reduced. At the side, the Tang family's General Tang Yu, who was galloping madly on his horse, frowned and said, "Commander Xiang, the Empire's army is fighting the demons in Songlin Valley and is in imminent danger. But we took the south to attack the Zhongnan province. The whole thing seems too rash. Although I am a general of the Tang family, I am also a soldier of the Empire. Does Her Highness know about this?" Xiang Yu smiled lightly. "General Tang Yu, do you think I am the kind of person who disobeys the Emperor's order?" "But, no buts, take a look yourself." Xiang Yu reached into his bosom and took out a golden scroll. He shook his hand and passed it to Tang Yu. "This is the Empress's edict?" Tang Yu's hands were slightly trembling as he held the Empress's edict in front of his chest. He glanced at it and read every word clearly. The order is for Xiang Yu to lead the army to retreat and pretend to be defeated. When the 300,000 elite troops of the Jiangaiha country come out of their seclusion, the demons will naturally attack. After the troops retreat, Xiang Yu is to immediately lead the army to the Turtle Valley and cross the mountains to attack Bai Ling City in the Lingnan. General Lei Manfang, who is guarding the city, will receive the general and take Bai Ling City in one fell swoop. The Emperor's order, written by Qin Yin. The huge imperial jade seal glowed with golden ink. Tang Yu had no choice but to believe it. He couldn't help but tremble and said, Is this Her Highness's order?" Xiang Yu said lightly, "What else? Do you think I would act on my own?" Tang Yu raised his head and looked at the starry sky blankly. But when Her Highness ordered the troops to retreat, Su Long's entire army was annihilated, Su Yi died in battle, and the God Might Battalion suffered great losses. Is it really worth it?" Xiang Yu couldn't help but sneer. Su Long is one of the Empire's commanders, but he only listens to Su Muyun's orders. What's the point of keeping such a person? Even if he is loyal to Her Highness, he might not be very loyal. Tang Yu, I, Xiang Yu, am a soldier of the Empire and a descendant of the God of War, Xiang went in. I only have one thing to do, and that is to rebuild the achievements of my ancestors and make them shine. Tang Yu felt a chill in his heart. "Commander Xiang, you are Duke Lan's grandson-in-law. Shouldn't you be loyal to Duke Lan?" "Duke Lan?" Xiang Yu laughed. "First there was the Empire, then there was Duke Lan. I can still differentiate this matter. Otherwise, how do you think Tang Lu and Tang Tian died? Could it be you?" Tang Yu was dumbfounded. Xiang Yu lowered the bloodthirsty spear in his hand. King's battle flames lingered around it, and his killing intent was already very sharp. He smiled and said, "General Tang Yu, you are a smart person. If you are loyal to me and Her Highness, I can let you live." Tang Yu couldn't help but wail in his heart. He cupped his fists and said, "This subordinate is a soldier of the Empire. I will naturally listen to the Empress's orders and die 10,000 times." "That's good. Let's speed up the march. General Lei Manfang should have already opened the city gates for us." Tang Yu's forehead was drenched in cold sweat. His heart was filled with a myriad of emotions. Tang Lan and Su Muyun both thought that Qin Yin was still young and inexperienced, and that she still had a lot of potential. But now, if this series of interlocking strategies really came from Qin Yin's hands, Qin Yin would no longer be the Qin Yin of the past. She would be the true empress of the Empire. She was no longer that innocent girl, but a queen who ruled over the world and reigned supreme. Chapter 598. In the western suburbs of Lanyan City, the Empire's purple Yinhua war flag fluttered in the wind. 200,000 demons and 50,000 soldiers were stationed here. In order to prevent Lanyan City from falling, Tang Xiaoxi had put in a lot of effort. In the north of the camp, in an inconspicuous tent, Tang Xiaoxi had a scroll spread out on her knees. It was the words of the divine book of fire that Lin Muyu had copied in the forest of heavenly tome steels. These words were very obscure and difficult to understand. Originally, there was nothing special about the words, but after connecting them into paragraphs, it became very exhausting to study, so that even with Tang Xiaoxi's cultivation, she could not see through the mysteries in a short period of time. Whirling flame, extreme earth flame, ancient scroll. Tang Xiaoxi's fingers gently stroked the scroll, and her whole body was immersed in the state of mind brought by the scroll. Suddenly, the surrounding scenery disappeared and was replaced by a piece of flying flame. She did not know when she was already in a purgatory like lava, and the surrounding heat rose as if it was going to burn and evaporate everything in the world. Oh, Tang Xiaoxi couldn't help but let out a whimper. The scorching temperature made her involuntarily summon her fire fox martial soul to resist. A four-tailed fire fox chirped as it leapt onto her shoulder. Its four tails danced in the air, providing a protective layer of energy for its master. Where is this? Tang Xiaoxi looked around. The endless sea of lava, thick smoke, and no one was there. She opened her beautiful eyes wide and continued to ask, "Where is this? Is there anyone here?" It was still silent. After nearly 10 minutes, finally, a golden light fell from the sky, as if a door of space had been opened. Then, a majestic voice came from the sky. "This is the heavenly imperial gate. People of the mortal world, why are you not aware of the heavenly realm? Heaven and earth are vast, and all living beings are vast. You are fated with the heavenly book, so you should carefully comprehend it." "For you?" Tang Xiaoxi blinked and asked. "People call me Fuxi, and also Emperor Qin." Fuxi? Tang Xiaoxi had heard of this name from Lin Muyu. She couldn't help but say excitedly, "God Emperor Fuxi? But did I already comprehend the divine book of the law of fire?" "Ha!" Fuxi burst into laughter and said, "People of the mortal world, concentrate on comprehending. This old man will be leaving." With a schwa sound, the heavenly imperial gate in the sky closed, as if nothing had happened, and Tang Xiaoxi stood on a piece of fiery red lava, her eyebrows slightly furrowed. Everything was so unreal. Previously, when she wrote the spiritual book, a state of mind also appeared, but that kind of real feeling seemed to exist, not like the illusory feeling in front of her. However, the surrounding temperature was getting higher and higher, to the point that Tang Xiaoxi had to release her king's battle flame to resist the high temperature. The cries of the fire fox on her shoulder became even more shrill. "Jie jie jie." Tang Xiaoxi also felt a burst of irritation for no reason. Her state of mind rapidly became chaotic, and the power in her body grew uncontrollably. All of a sudden, it broke out of her body, and she had already entered the state of nine-tailed transformation. The 9 flame tails danced in the flames, and Tang Xiaoxi's pair of beautiful eyes also turned golden. The same state of mind, the same situation, she already knew what had happened. "Come out!" Tang Xiaoxi shouted, raised her palm, and a divine seal broke through the air. With a hong sound, it stirred up a wave of fire in the magma, and in the middle of the fire, a human figure was slowly condensing. It was actually the same as Tang Xiaoxi, a beautiful 9-tailed demon fox, with the same beautiful appearance, the same golden eyes, but her figure was slim, and she was actually not wearing a single piece of cloth. It was as if Tang Xiaoxi was seeing her naked body. In an instant, Tang Xiaoxi's face turned red, and she shouted, "Who the hell are you?" She, in the flames, let out an extremely seductive voice and said, "I am you, and you are me, why do you ask?" "No, you are not me." Tang Xiaoxi gritted her teeth and said, "You are just a despicable and dirty slut." "Is that so?" She, in the flames, chuckled, "Am I really that kind of person? Then what about you? Tang Xiaoxi, look at how much of a failure you are. When you met Lin Muyu in Silver Fir City, you started to like him, but now, he is left by another woman. Do you know why Qin Yin arranged for Lin Muyu to be by her side? Because she wants to possess him. Tang Xiaoxi, why are you willing to give the person you love to another woman? Why don't you fight for him? Are you really a useless trash?" Tang Xiaoxi was slightly startled, and her eyes revealed a trace of unwillingness, but even more fear. She couldn't believe that the thoughts that flew through her mind at this moment were actually so rebellious. The fiery tail behind her danced even more seductively, and Tang Xiaoxi's mind was in chaos. She couldn't help but kneel on the magma in pain, and hugged her head as she curled up there. Nine Tails in the flames slowly walked over, and her eyes revealed a fierce light, and said with a smile, "Do you know why Tang Lu and Tang Tian hate Qin Yin so much? Because she treats everyone in the world as her pawns. She has never trusted anyone, including you. In her eyes, there is only the world and the throne. You and Lin Muyu are just her pawns. Sight. Poor you, poor Lin Muyu, and I thought that Qin Yin cherished you, but you are just pawns for Qin Yin to seize the world. Xiao Shi, Qin Yin has never truly loved Lin Muyu. Are you so willing to give the person you love to a woman who uses him? No, no." Tang Xiaoxi's expression was very painful. Her 5 fingers slowly extended into golden claws, scratching her skin, and blood flowed down. She curled up there, trembling all over, but she kept murmuring, "I will not betray Xiao Yin, I will never betray Xiao Yin, she is the same, Xiao Yin will never betray our oath, never. Silly girl, she is an emperor, and you are just a princess, how can you compare?" She gently stroked Tang Xiaoxi's shoulder and said, "The future should be in your hands. You know what you need, Xiao Shi, you have always been a smart girl. Qin Yin is a woman who only has eyes for the world. She is not worthy of you risking your life for her, and she is not worthy of Lin Muyu risking her life to kill the enemy for her. Wake up, you are Tang Xiaoxi, you are the supreme Nine Tails. Use your power well, and you will be the master of the world. You get out of my way." Tang Xiaoxi suddenly seemed to be furious, and her beautiful face was a bit ferocious. She suddenly raised her claws and pressed Nine Tails directly into the lava. Her golden eyes were full of ruthlessness, and she said, "I can't even control you, how can I be the master of the world? Go to hell, get out of my Yi-Hai, you annoying bad thing." "Ha!" Nine-Tailed laughed. "I am you. How do you want me to get out of your mind? Kill me. Killing me is equivalent to killing yourself. Go to hell." Tang Xiaoxi suddenly exerted force. The god-exterminating seal of the 12th heaven of the fire god seal erupted from her palm, instantly shredding Nine-Tailed's body to pieces. However, it seemed that Nine-Tailed did not die. That coquettish laughter still reverberated in her mind, causing Tang Xiaoxi to have another headache. She curled up in pain. "Princess? Princess?" With Tang Zhen's call, Tang Xiaoxi slowly woke up, and her face was slightly pale. "Princess, what's wrong with you?" Tang Zhen frowned and said, "It's as if you have been possessed by the devil." "Princess, are you okay?" Tang Xiaoxi found that she had fallen asleep on the table in the tent, and could not help but feel suspicious, and said, "I'm fine." "Tang Zhen, what time is it now?" "Princess, today is the 16th of February, and it's evening now. We have just received military intelligence from the front line. Nearly 400,000 troops of the Empire fought the Devil Race in Songlin Valley, and they were defeated. Then one of the 2 Devil Race marshals, Lei Chong, led 200,000 troops to ambush them. Commander Yu annihilated more than 100,000 armor demons and 30,000 winged people in the Demon Fall Valley with the power of the magic crystal cannon. The Lei Chong Legion was almost completely annihilated." "Really? That's great." Tang Xiaoxi smiled happily. "I knew that Mu's magic crystal cannon would be very powerful, but it's not easy to kill 100,000 armor demons. How did he do it?" "I don't know, but..." Tang Zhen pondered and said, "After the Devil Race and the Empire suffered heavy losses, the 300,000 elite troops of the Iha Nation went to the Sword Pavilion, but fell into the Devil Race's trap. Currently, Qianfeng is leading 200,000 troops of the Devil Race to surround the Iha Nation's troops in Songlin Valley." Tang Xiaoxi raised her eyebrows and said, "Since the Lei Chong Legion of the Devil Race was defeated, why would Qianfeng send his troops out rashly?" Tang Zhen said, "I don't know, but according to my deduction, Qianfeng's original plan was for the Lei Chong Legion to defeat Commander Yu's army, then turn around and attack together with the Qianfeng Legion to annihilate the Iha Nation's troops. It's just that Qianfeng didn't expect the Lei Chong Legion to be defeated, and even Lei Chong himself was beheaded by Commander Yu." "That's great. What about grandfather? Is there any news?" Feng Jixing has repelled Long Lin and Ding Shi's attacks more than 10 times. The defense of the 3 passes is very stable. Don't worry, Duke Lan is with Commander Feng Jixing. Nothing will happen. Did Grandpa write a letter in his own hand? The battle in Songlin Valley is at a stalemate, and it's time to use troops. If Tang Lu's 300,000 elite troops can go to Songlin Valley to help, they can definitely win the battle. No! Tang Jin cupped his fists and said, Duke Lan didn't respond to the messengers we sent. He didn't even see them. This, Tang Xiaoxi frowned slightly, what's Tang Lu's doing? The 7 passes have been preparing provisions and forging armaments. They look like they're ready to go. I think Tang Lu will come out at any time, but the target of his attack will be Lanyan City. Humph. Chapter 599. 20 miles to the west of the Songlin Valley, there was a spacious open field in the woods. Flags were flying in the air. After the war, the army of the empire was resting here. There were more than 100 barracks for wounded soldiers. Staff and vehicles of the elixir department from Tsangnan province came here in an endless stream, bringing a large number of medicines and supplies. Abundant supplies were the most important factor for the empire to contend with the demons. In the camp, the howling of the blazing black tortoise came from afar. It was the wounded blazing black tortoise in the last war. Lin Muyu, Sidusun, Sidushui, Fengxi and others were patrolling in the camp, inspecting everything. Although there were nearly 150,000 soldiers in this camp, the real fighting force was only that of the Longdan army camp. The God Might Battalion and the Iron Blade Army had suffered heavy losses and could no longer fight for the time being. The most tragic one was the corps led by Su Long. Only a few hundred of them escaped along the Rice River. The rest of them were all killed. This was the most tragic battle since the destruction of Winter Frost City. Looking at the blazing black tortoise being treated by Chu Yao in the distance, Lin Muyu's tightly knitted eyebrows finally relaxed a little. She walked forward and gently stroked the shell of the blazing black tortoise. She smiled and said, Sister Chu Yao, you can even treat spirit beasts? You're almost a vet. Chu Yao glanced at him grumpily. She didn't stop applying medicine on the blazing black tortoise. She smiled and said, the front army is so busy with the war, but you still have time to joke with me here. No matter how fierce the war is, we can't lose our mind. Lin Muyu smiled and patted on Chu Yao's shoulder. She said, Sister Chu Yao, you go on with your work. I'm going to the meeting. Go ahead. Just as Chu Yao had said, Lin Muyu was extremely busy right now. After inspecting the campsite, she immediately led Situ Sun, Fengxi, and the other generals to the headquarters. After entering the tent, Qin Yin, Su Mun, Zhen Yifan, Luo Exin, and the others were already waiting. You is here. Qin Yin smiled faintly and said, Come quickly, I've been waiting for you. Lin Muyu walked up and noticed that the flags on the sand table had changed. She pointed at the purple flag outside 100 Ridge City and said, Whose army is this? I don't know, His Highness has just placed it here, Luo Exin replied. Zhen Yifan, on the other hand, squinted his eyes and chuckled, Your Highness, the war is already at a stalemate, so why don't you tell us some things? Although we are all old men, we can at least provide Your Highness with some information. Qin Yin nodded and said, First of all, Xiao Yin would like to apologize to everyone here. I sent Xiang Yu to contact Qianfeng without everyone's permission to plot against the Yihe nation. Lin Muyu was stunned. Xiao Yin, you contacted Qianfeng? Strictly speaking, it was Commander Xiang Yu who contacted Qianfeng. Qin Yin said slowly, After the army arrived at Five Valley City, Commander Xiang Yu sent a secret envoy to meet Qianfeng and made an agreement to plot against the Yihe nation together. However, Qianfeng is a sly old fox, so he made an agreement with the empire to feign defeat and the demons to suffer heavy losses to lure the Yihe nation to send out their troops. However, he didn't expect it to really happen. The empire's situation was very tragic, and Big Brother Yu took advantage of the situation and defeated the Thunder Rush army in the Demon Fall Valley. Zhen Yifan was stunned and said, If it was a demon who plotted to lure out the Iha nation's army, this move was too sinister. If Commander Yu didn't defeat the Thunder Rush army, then even if the Iha nation sent out their troops, the demons would be able to easily annihilate them. Then, they would direct their troops at the Empire. At that time, the humans would probably not have any more chances. Qin Yin looked straight at Lin Muyu and said, "Big brother, you spent so much money on researching new weapons, I believed that he wouldn't disappoint me. Therefore, I bet that big brother you would be able to defeat the Thunder Rush army." He indeed didn't disappoint me. He established this unparalleled achievement and directly annihilated the Thunder Rush army. Lin Muyu was a little speechless. "You should have told me about this in advance." "I know, I'm sorry." Qin Yin pouted and acted like a spoiled child. All right. Lin Muyu nodded and felt a wave of irritation in her heart. If everything was single-handedly manipulated by Qin Yin, then it meant that Qin Yin knew that Su Long's army, the God Might Battalion, and the Steel Blade army would suffer heavy losses or even be annihilated. However, she still tolerated all of this. Unknowingly, Qin Yin seemed to have learned such trickery. However, Lin Muyu didn't know whether she was happy or depressed. Such a Qin Yin was a qualified ruler, but she was no longer that innocent girl. "Now, let's talk about what to do." Su Muyun frowned and said, "Qianfeng's 200,000 soldiers surrounded Ji Yao's 200,000 elite soldiers and massacred them in Lin Valley. This is already the second day. I'm afraid that less than half of Ji Yao's 200,000 elite soldiers are left. What should we do now? Take the initiative to attack? Or?" Zheng Yifan relaxed his brows and said, "This old official heard that the demon race has used a new type of soldier called the flying snake. It's huge in size and extremely destructive. These flying snakes are the biggest reason why the Iha country was defeated so quickly. Most of the soldiers we have now are injured soldiers. Once the demon race annihilates Ji Yao's army, how should we respond?" "As far as I know, Commander Yu has already ordered the destruction of the 100 magic crystal cannons. Without these weapons, we are no match for the demon race. Don't worry, Divine Marquis." Lin Muyu pressed her palm on the edge of the sand table and said with a smile, "2 days ago, Qin Ziling sent me a letter. The new batch of magic crystal cannons has already been transported by the waterway of Dao River. If it's not today, then it'll arrive tomorrow. I've already sent Wei Chou to lead 5,000 people to the waterway to welcome them." "That's great," Zheng Yifan said with a smile. "Where does Commander Yu plan to fight the demon race? Everyone is tired, so there's no need to go too far." Lin Muyu stamped her feet and said, "This is a natural battlefield. Why do we need to give up what's close at hand and seek what's far away?" Qin Yin stared blankly. "Are we going to fight the demon race on the plains?" Lin Muyu looked at her and said, "No matter how strong the Qianfeng army is, eating up Ji Yao's 200,000 elite soldiers will definitely hurt their muscles and bones. Moreover, the demon race has always thought that we humans are good at tricks and are unwilling to fight them on the plains. This time, we'll rely on the magic crystal cannons to fight them on the plains. Xiao Yin, you sent Xiang Yu to Bai Ling City. Do you want to take advantage of the fact that Bai Ling City is empty and take over one of the 7 famous cities on the continent? And, as long as we capture Bai Ling City, it's equal to defeating half of the Iha country. I hope Xiang Yu succeeds." Lin Muyu sighed softly and said, "Sidu Sun, Sidu Shui, immediately dispatch the Longdan army camp to the open space in front of us and prepare to fight the Qianfeng army." "Yes, Commander." "Everyone disperse." Everyone left one after another. Soon, only Qin Yin and Lin Muyu were left. Qin Yin stood there in a daze. She knew that Lin Muyu definitely had something to say, so she looked at him and said, "Do you blame me for being ruthless?" "I don't." "But you do." Qin Yin looked at him with a gaze as sharp as a sword and said, "You've never lied. Everything is written on your face. I know you blame me for being such a scheming woman. Su Long, there's no need for you to die. The Divine Might Battalion is loyal to the Empire, so there's no need for them to pay such a huge price." Lin Muyu looked at Qin Yin and suddenly felt a sense of unfamiliarity. She murmured, Xiao-yin, you've changed. Yes, I've changed. Qin-yin looked at him in a daze. Her beautiful eyes were covered with a layer of mist and tears were swirling in her eyes. She said, I really hope that the person in front of me isn't me, but it is me. My body is already stained with blood, but I don't regret it. She bowed slightly and took out a golden wooden tablet from her bag. It was Qin Jin's memorial tablet. Xiao-yin. Lin Muyu was dumbfounded. Qin Yin's expression was calm as she placed Qin Jin's memorial tablet on the table. She slowly knelt down and looked at Lin Muyu with tears streaming down her face. Do you think I wanted to do all of this? But big brother Yu, do you remember how Lanyan City was breached? Do you remember how Muyu City and Seven Seas City refused to send troops and caused the deaths of Chu Huayin, Qin Lei, and so many others? The feudal vassals all had ulterior motives, but when the empire was in danger, they still had the strength to protect themselves. Shouldn't these traitors and traitors be punished? As she spoke, Qin-yin stood up and raised her hand. A golden ice crystal pierced through the air and pierced through the tent. The drizzle fell from the sky. Qin-yin raised her long neck and allowed the drizzle to fall on her face. She closed her eyes as tears rolled down her cheeks. I didn't want to bear all of this, but Su Muyun and Tang Lan put me on the throne. They wanted to turn me into a puppet for power. Do I have a choice? I hope that this rain turns into thousands of swords and knives and turns those traitors and traitors into mincemeat. Qin-yin sobbed continuously, and her face was full of desolation. All along, she had shouldered too much, but no one had ever understood her. Everyone thought that the Empress was above everything, but they didn't know how much humiliation and indignation Qin-yin had suffered. In the future, everyone would scold her for being vicious and merciless, but no one would criticize the feudal vassals who ignored the survival of mankind and put their own safety before anything else. People were always like this. They were deceived by the illusion in front of them and thought that everyone should be as pure and holy as they thought they were. They never understood the pain and struggles of others. Lin Muyu silently walked forward and gently hugged her. She caressed her drenched back and said, In the future, let me do these kinds of bad things. Qin Yin's shoulders trembled as she wailed in Lin Muyu's arms. It was as if she wanted to turn all of her grievances and unhappiness into tears. After a while, Qin Yin raised her head and looked at Lin Muyu with her red eyes. She wiped away her tears and asked, Will you still love me? Yes, I will always. Including, I will do another bad thing, a bad thing that will let Xiaoxi down. Lin Muyu was puzzled. What bad thing? Xiang Yu is about to take over Bailing City. He secretly ordered Tang Lan to lead 10,000 troops to reinforce and defend Bailing City. During this era, the empire will govern Bailing City. This, Lin Muyu pondered for a while and said, Tang Lan has ulterior motives. He ordered Tang Lu to lead 300,000 troops and wait for an opportunity. Indeed, he deserves to die. Moreover, if Tang Lan doesn't die, the Seven Seas province will never be able to be pacified. As the empire's ruler, you should have this kind of courage. If you want to wear a crown, you must bear the weight. If you want to hold a rose, you must bear the pain. Just do it. This time, I support you. Yes. Chapter 600. Translation. On a moonlit night, a warm breeze brushed past the Daojiang River. Spring had come especially fast in Songnan Province. In the middle of the river, huge imperial warships were cleaving through the waves. On the warships, there were huge black cannons. Each warship had 3 cannons. There were nearly 50 warships moving slowly in the river. However, the people on the ships were not in the mood to sleep. Their eyes were wide open as if they wanted to see through the water of Daojiang. Vice Commander Wei, what are you looking at? Commander Bailey Tsong smiled and looked at the water outside of the ship. Could it be that there are some water monsters in the water? Bailey Tsong had not experienced the Battle of Wildfire Plains, so he naturally did not know about these things. Wei Chou only smiled and said, No, but it is better to be careful. The demon race has a kind of underwater army that is very scary. We must be careful. Are you talking about the winged ones? Yes. Beilitsang could not help but smile. I am the commander of the navy, but to be honest, I have never seen this kind of underwater army of the demon race. It is a bit strange. Don't be strange. You do not want to see the winged ones. Wei Chou placed his hand on the hilt of the sword on his waist and said, "Come, gather our guards and protect the warships at all times." Behind him, a general wearing the insignia of a golden star sparring master cupped his fist and said, "Vice Commander, please do not worry. Everything has been prepared. Nothing will happen." "Ah, that is good." Wei Chou looked up at the starlight and said, "The last time we transported the magic crystal cannons by water, it did not escape the eyes of the winged demons. If nothing goes wrong, this time we will transport the magic crystal cannons by water. With Qianfeng's shrewdness, he will definitely notice it and take action. Everyone, stay alert and do not sleep at night." "Yes, Vice Commander." Beilitsang looked at the two sides of the river in the distance and said, "This war has been going on for 2 years. I do not know when it will end. If it continues, I am afraid that the Empire's national strength will be completely exhausted." "It will not be long." "I hope so." Suddenly, a long soft tongue shot out from the water and went straight for Beilitsang. It stuck to Beilitsang's chest armor and pulled him to the surface of the water. "Be careful." Wei Chou hurriedly grabbed Beilitsang's arm and pulled him back to the side of the ship. He raised his sword and cut off Beilitsang's soft tongue. He shouted, "The horseshoe crab man has appeared. Prepare for battle." Everyone was shocked and drew their swords. The archers came to the edge of the deck and arrows rained down. The arrows whizzed into the water, seemingly having no effect. The Mengs did not attack from the front. Instead, clanking sounds of chiseling came from the bottom of the ship. The Mengs were using the same trick, trying to pierce through the warship. "Damn it." Wei Chou brandished his sword and said, "Beast Taming Division, what are you waiting for? Release your treasures." A group of generals dressed in the armor of the Holy Temple put their fingers to their mouths and whistled. Not far away, a whirlpool appeared at the bottom of the water. That was the sound of a giant swimming underwater. In the next moment, a Mengs were swept out of the water by a huge tail and were bitten in half by a frost-armored horned dragon. Kiki, violent screams could be heard from under the water. The 50 frost-armored horned dragons and the mastiffs were engaged in a fierce battle. The mastiffs relied on their ability to breathe underwater, but the frost-armored horned dragons could do the same. Furthermore, the frost-armored horned dragons were covered in extremely hard scales that the mastiffs were unable to pierce through. In the blink of an eye, the surface of the water was dyed dark red. No one knew how the battle was progressing underwater. But judging from the floating Mengs corpses, the frost-armored horned dragons had the absolute upper hand. Even though the Mengs had the advantage in numbers, they were still no match for the frost-armored horned dragons. About 2 hours later, the Mengs corpses on the surface of the water were floating together, reflecting a strange radiance under the moonlight. One by one, the frost-armored horned dragons emerged from the water, their heads bowing to their masters on the warship. The masters immediately threw the fishes into the water, feeding the frost-armored horned dragons as if they were dogs. Beilitsang was still in a state of shock. He stared dumbfoundedly and said, "Commander Yu's taming of these frost-armored horned dragons is indeed effective. Oh my god, the demon race's underwater legion has actually found their way here." Wei Chou muttered, 50 frost-armored horned dragons eat 100 cows and 500 sheep every day. After raising them for so many days, I can finally see the results. Hee, Commander Yu is indeed far-sighted. If we did not have the frost-armored horned dragons to protect us, we would definitely be at a disadvantage this time. Perhaps all the magic crystal cannons would have sunk into the river, making it even harder to predict the outcome of the battle. "That's right." Beilitsang squinted his eyes and smiled. "If you could distribute a few of these frost-armored horned dragons to our navy? Don't think too much. Commander Bailey, you don't know that these frost-armored horned dragons are my lord's flesh and blood. You want to take away his flesh? Do you think a stingy person like him will agree?" "How, that's true." Deputy Commander Wei is right. A bright moon hung high in the sky. 100 Ridge City was as quiet as usual. Once midnight arrived, the city would be under martial law. No one was allowed to enter or leave the city. However, tonight was different. On the city wall, Lei Manfang was patrolling above the city as usual. The two golden stars on his shoulders sparkled under the moonlight. Clap, clap. The sound of birds flapping their wings came from the sky. A messenger bird landed on Lei Manfang's shoulder. He hurriedly took down the letter, unfolded it, and looked into the distance. 100 Ridge City was surrounded by mountains, but at this moment he could vaguely see the light of fire in the distant mountains. He could even faintly hear the sound of galloping warhorses. "My lord, have they arrived?" a Chiliarch asked respectfully. Lei Manfang said indifferently, "Who is on duty at the North Gate tonight?" "It's Zhou Chao, Chiliarch of the Heaven's Vault Army." "Good. Bring the brothers and follow me. Let's treat Zhou Chao to a drink." A group of people walked down from the city wall and arrived at the camp guarding the city. Lei Manfang carried a jar of wine under his arm and walked into the tent casually. He laughed and said, "Brother Zhou Chao, how have you been?" Zhou Chao was a middle-aged general about 40 years old. He sniffed and said with a smile, "Apricot wine from a small town in the southwest of 100 Ridge City. I wonder if I guessed correctly?" Brother, you really are a god of wine. Come, I happen to have nothing to do today. I'll come and drink with you." "But..." Zhou Chao frowned and said, "I'm on duty at the city gate today. I'm afraid it's not appropriate for me to drink." "It's fine. Commander Yi is trapped in Song Lin Valley. We don't even know if he's dead or alive. Who can care about you? There's wine tonight, so let's get drunk. What's the point of caring so much?" "That's true. Come, let's not stop until we're drunk." The two of them placed good wine and meat on the table and drank without restraint. After they were half drunk, a hint of killing intent flashed through Lei Manfang's eyes. He said with a smile, "General Ji has led 300,000 troops and is surrounded by the demon race. They're most likely going to be swallowed whole. I think the situation in Iha country is about to change. Brother Zhou Chao, don't you think about the future?" Zhou Chao was startled. "General Lei, what do you mean by that? Are you thinking of defecting to the enemy?" "That's exactly what I'm thinking." Lei Manfang smiled slightly. "The reason I'm treating you to a drink today is to ask for something from you. I want to present it to Commander Xianxia of the Empire." "What do you want?" Zhou Chao was half sober now. He flipped over and grabbed his sword. "I want your head." Lei Manfang's eyes flashed fiercely. He opened his palm and a flame shot out. Instantly, Zhou Chao groaned and fell to the ground. The difference in strength was too great. There was no suspense at all. Lei Manfang walked forward and cut off his head. Just like when he came, he carried something under his armpit. However, this time, it wasn't wine but a head. "Get rid of those who are in the way. Immediately open the city gates and welcome the Empire's army into the city." With Lei Manfang's order, Zhou Chao's guards were almost all killed in an instant. The city gates buzzed open. Not long after, the iron hooves from afar arrived. The purple Yinhua emblem shone under the light of the torches. After 5 years, the purple Yinhua finally appeared in 100 Ridge City again. The iron horses in front all had human heads hanging on their necks. Needless to say, the Iha country's guards along the way had all been killed. In the distance, Xiang Yu's army was densely packed. "Commander Xiang." Lei Manfang held up Zhou Chao's head and smiled. "This is the head of Zhou Chao, who was on duty in the North City tonight. Please accept it, Commander Xiang." Xiang Yu rode forward, his eyes filled with pride and a smile. "General Lei, I wonder what kind of reward His Highness promised you for you to take such a risk." "Marquis Lingnan." "Oh, I see." Xiang Yu cupped his fists and smiled. "Then congratulations, Marquis Lingnan. Let's go. We'll enter the city and immediately take control of everything in 100 Ridge City." "Yes. Enter the city." Xiang Yu raised his arm and shouted. "Once you enter the city, You are not allowed to plunder or kill any civilians. Attack the 4 city gates immediately and kill all the Iha country's guards. Yes, Commander. Amidst the clattering of hooves, a row of imperial cavalrymen galloped into the city. The magnificent 100-ridge city, the capital of the Iha kingdom, had been left with less than 10,000 soldiers. Xiangyu had seized the city so easily. At the same time, Wang Lin Valley was in flames. Only a few of the Iha country's 200,000 elite soldiers were left, but the remaining thousands were still fighting to the death. Among the crowd, a blazing flame rushed back and forth, crushing the armor demons and winged people. It was the fire dance deity king, Ouyang Yen. Ouyang Yen. Suddenly, a majestic voice came from the sky. When Ouyang Yen looked up, she saw a person descending from the sky. His giant palm was filled with divine power. Bam! When the 2 palms collided, air currents flew everywhere. Ouyang Yen suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood and flew far away like a falling leaf. She looked up at the person in the sky. It was a black-robed elder. She gritted her teeth and said, "You are not far away." Qianfeng and the other high-level demons knelt down and said the answer Ouyang Yen wanted. "Greetings, deity king." The demon king laughed and opened his palm. "Ouyang Yen, you useless deity, how dare you resist my army? I think you must be tired of living." Ouyang Yen gritted her teeth, but the demon king's power was too strong. He was so strong that she could not resist. She quickly retreated. A purple light flashed behind her, and she disappeared. It was the Void Steps teleportation technique. "Humph, scoundrel." The demon king looked at the place where Ouyang Yen disappeared. He waved his arm and said, "Marshal Qianfeng, you have wasted too much time. Clean up the battlefield immediately and attack the Empire's position. I want to see the heads of Qin Yin and Lin Muyu within 3 days." "Yes, Your Majesty." In the crowd, Yi Xuanhuan trembled. He raised his sword and rushed over angrily. He shouted, "I'll fight you to the death." The demon king looked at him fiercely and activated the power of the celestial territory. Yi Xuanhuan was immediately immobilized. Blood flowed from his mouth and nose. In the blink of an eye, his face was ashen. He knelt on the ground, no longer breathing. The dignified commander of the Iha country's Heaven Vault army had died in battle without a sound. Who else wants to resist the celestial race? The demon king looked coldly at the last troops of the Iha country. Clang! The sword in Ji Yao's hand fell on the mountain rock. He slowly knelt on the ground and said with a trembling voice, "Subordinate Yao is willing to surrender to the celestial race. I hope the deity king can take me in." "Umph, despicable person." The demon king smiled faintly. "Marshal Qianfeng, this Ji Yao, should we keep him or not?" Qianfeng couldn't help but laugh. "Your Majesty, the celestial race lacks a commander for the advance army. This Ji Yao has some prestige in the Iha country. Let him stay." "Yes, you deal with him." You're tuning in to the Wang Lin's Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.